Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce, Simon, and I are mock drafting. We are going to break down the top 30 players in this 2025 NBA draft class. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? I don't feel prepared. I had all these notes. I thought we were breaking down the 3-point competition and the dunk contest and the celebrity game from Friday night, and I don't know what to do now. I'm lost.
I can't do it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I can't do the All-Star stuff. You know that. The coolest thing I saw last night was Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama like literally trying to game the system.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, this is the kind of drama we need to make this thing exciting, but I don't know, man. I'm just not. I'm not it. It's not for me. That's the thing, and I just don't. Yeah. I'm cool just doing this because here's what I thought about earlier today. Every year, people do like the All-Star game. Oh my God, the sky is falling. How do we fix the All-Star game? How do we do this? That's the content that's going to be coming every single day for the next for the next day or day and a half, right? I was just like, why don't we stop being Charlie Brown with the football and let's just do something different that we know people want, right? Yeah. We know people want a mock draft. Let's just talk mock draft.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've seen the clip of Wemby trying to game the system and like one or two of McClung's dunks, and that's it. And I feel bad because like Pistons fans specifically are trying to talk to me like through DMs and stuff. And I always try to be like respectful and polite and always answered my DMs and all of that about Cade playing in this today and the 3-point comp. And I'm just like, I'm finding it hard to be like, guys, I don't care. Literally the only thing I care about and am interested by is if it affects his game in some way on Friday when they start playing again, right? Like, does his jumper look different because he prepared for the 3-point competition, or does he not have his legs the way other guys do because it's his first All-Star game? Other than that, like, I just don't care about this stuff. It's not interesting for me. It's cool for some people and I love it. And again, I'm not telling other people not to watch it at all. Wow. Well,
me watching All-Star stuff is just like the Eric Bledsoe tweet. I don't want to be here. Yeah. Like I just don't. I've had like a bunch of like agents and friends and people in media text me, "Hey, are you over in San Francisco for the All-Star game?" I was like, "Nope, absolutely not there." It's just not for me, and that's okay. If it's for you, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
I'm like very happy that you're getting what you're looking for. I'm sorry that you're not getting what you're looking for. It's just not for me, and it's not for this show, and that's okay.
To be clear, we're not trying to gatekeep like, oh, it shouldn't exist or something. We're just saying like we aren't into it. If you are, enjoy it. And if it's not what you want, I'm cool with people complaining. It's just I don't care enough about it to complain about the product anymore. It's kind of whatever. So yeah.
No, I agree. Okay. Let's mock draft. Bryce.
Let's do it.
So we're going to talk about 2025 NBA draft prospects today. We are going to break them down in detail and talk through a whole lot of exciting future NBA players today. Bryce, as we start all of these mock drafts, I will ask you, has your opinion changed on this 2025 NBA draft the more that we've gotten deeper into the season?
No, I mean, I think I've kind of been steadfast in my opinion of when people say this is an awesome class, I still think they're just talking about the top, and that's fine. If that's how we're always going to characterize drafts, that's cool. Like I've kind of just learned from the last 2 seasons, that's how we're going to talk about it. I still think the top 5 is really interesting. We'll talk about it. As I told you, even before we recorded, and we've talked about this multiple times, the guys that go 6 to 10-ish are players I like. but they're going to be players I'm a little uncomfortable in the 6 to 10-ish range. Again, it doesn't mean I don't like these guys. It's just I'm like, man, I would love to fill in this spot with some either higher ceiling or whatever. So doesn't mean I think they're bad players. Doesn't mean I don't think they'll carve out NBA careers. I just don't think that's the strength, I guess, is the rest of the lottery. And then I think it starts to balance out after that. And then there's some guys I like that are really interesting going into the second round and stuff. You always find those guys, but that's just that's me in general, right? Like that's not an indictment on the class. There's just some guys in the second round. I'm like, oh, this guy's interesting. Really interested to see what the NBA thinks of him. But in general, my thoughts have been the same in terms of kind of that area of the draft where I think things are a little unsure.
Yeah, no, I'm basically there. I really like the top 2 names. I think Ace Bailey is a really interesting player for sure, and we'll talk about him when one of us takes Ace Bailey. I'll probably let you have number 1 because I took number 1 last time.
I think that's right. Yeah.
That way, we can kind of just go back and forth on this. Yeah, like I like the top 2. I think that the overall value of the top 5 will probably not be terribly different than what it typically is. And then after that, I'm not a huge fan of this 5 to 6 to 14 lottery range. I think there are a ton of questions in the first round. I think that there are probably a number of different dudes once you get to the second round that will potentially carve out interesting careers. Like I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to be an NBA player for a while.
Sure. Yeah.
And whether or not that ends up happening, we'll see. But I don't know that I'm excited about taking him at 25, but probably take him at 34, and that's probably going to result in like a Luke Cornetti backup center, right? And if he is Luke Cornett, you probably do take him at 25. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a tricky year. I think that this draft is like considerably less exciting than the 2026 draft for what it's worth. I think that people have kind of started to come around to that a little bit. I just think that this draft got way too hyped up early on. And you and I have been pouring water on that since October, before the college season even started. And hopefully people have kind of understood why we were a little bit more questionable on this than what some people were.
Yeah, I hate to be that guy and that's not really what this draft is, because what I've found is I have a lot of people for teams that are going to draft, like fans or media people that have teams that are going to be in that area. And I think they want to be excited. I think they're expecting my answer to be like, oh no, there's 14 legit lottery. Like you're going to be super excited. And it's like, that's not how I personally feel about it. And so, I mean, I've talked to an agent recently where I was like, talking about one of their potential clients, and it's like, yeah, after the top 5, who knows? Like it could go a lot of ways. And I think that's where the fun conversation of fits versus best player available versus tiers and all of that become really, really interesting. Especially once you get out of that top 5. So, and you're right. Like somebody like Ryan Kalkbrenner, I have him right in the range you were discussing there. I think there's some guys that end up in the second round that do carve out, career. The one other thing I will say is real quick here, Sam, because I don't know if how many of these guys we'll talk about. There's some freshmen that I'm interested to at least see what their decision ends up being and how NBA teams end up valuing their seasons and, what they were like. I'll throw out 2 names. Carter Bryant and William Riley are 2 guys that I'm really interested to see, because I feel like Riley especially has gained momentum.
I love how you use Will Riley's government name.
Yeah,
too, by the way.
I'm sorry.
William Riley.
I just added. I'm gonna get fired just because I say people's names wrong. That's how I have it written down on my mock for some reason. I don't know why. And so I was just reading it off. Will Riley and Carter Bryant. Apologies to Will Riley, but there's a few names like that in terms of like, okay, do they continue this on? Do they have big NCAA tournament runs, stuff like that? And again, then how will those things be valued during pre-draft and all of that? So
totally agree with you. And then like some of the like juniors, right? Like a guy that I really like is Josh Dix at Iowa. Right?
Yeah, good player.
I think he's a really, really good basketball player. I don't know how tall he is. It's kind of my thing. Like he should definitely declare and just kind of see where it sits, in my opinion. But man, I'm very interested to see where somebody like him kind of comes down on it, because somebody like him, like an Alex Condon at Florida,
Yeah.
those guys are going to make $700, $800, $900,000 next year in college basketball. And would you rather do that or take a risk on being a two-way in the NBA, which, you know, there's a real question. Alex Condon, Josh Dix, guys like that, they're in that, like, you know, maybe early second, maybe two-way. You don't know exactly. You're going to have a team fall in love with you. This year might be the year where we really see a lot of guys just go, you know what? Like, I'm good. I'm just going to take the big money to stay in college and be happy with that. And then we'll try our luck next year. You know what I mean?
And that's what I always find interesting on my board too, is how many of those guys drop out. And then that's where the lower part of your board, where right now, like I have like a draftable tier, even though they're not like, say, those guys all of a sudden start getting pushed up. And then it becomes you know, are they second round picks? Would they rather be undrafted free agents? I also have been watching some of the smaller school guys recently, like just trying to be as well-rounded as I can. And I'm interested to see, like, I'm probably not going to say his last name correctly. Jackson Monet, North Dakota State.
Jackson Monet at North Dakota State. Yeah. Not a guy he's like an E10 two-way guy to me personally, because I don't think he's interesting. Like, I don't think he's explosive enough, but he actually moves laterally at a reasonable level.
Yeah, but can really shoot it. But like I watched Jaron Pierre Jr. from Jack State this morning, like can really, really shoot it. It's just like, what happens to those guys, right? Like if they enter, they stay in. I think Moni is like, I think he's an auto. I think he's done. I think
Moni's auto eligible.
Yeah. But it's like, where do they go? Like, how far does it push them up if Alex Condon and these guys?
I guess I should say Moni is auto eligible. Sorry. Assuming that all of the weird JUCO stuff, like, I don't know where that sits right now. Like, maybe he ends up getting more years.
Sure.
College basketball is the Wild West right now.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though, to your point, if he gets another year, he's going to get paid somewhere. Like, I would assume he would be a pretty hot name in the transfer portal with money that's going to probably be better than two-way money. And so if he gets another year, like maybe he ends up back in college then also. So it's just, it's very fascinating how it all, you know, works together.
Totally. Okay. Before we get started here, go hit the subscribe button over on Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie over on YouTube. Go hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us, hit the like button, subscribe, do whatever you can to support the show. It really, really helps lift everything that we do here over at the podcast. Go subscribe over on the podcast feed. I've learned that apparently, like, telling people to do this actually helps. So please, please, please go hit that button, and let's make sure and hit our sponsor real quick. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money, sports, action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks just is the absolute best place to do any sort of daily fantasy sports. They have made it accessible to everyone. We love PrizePicks here at Game Theory just because of how easy they make it to get real money, sports action. Look, even though the Super Bowl is over, we obviously have now hit the basketball season. We have hit hockey season. There are so many different ways for you to go get involved over at PrizePicks. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and they will turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, Bryce, let's draft.
Let's do it.
First up, the Washington Wizards. You are selecting.
Yeah. So listen, Cooper Flagg is in a tier of his own for me. We've mentioned this recently. I know for me, this still stands true. He should be the number one pick for 30 out of 30 NBA teams, regardless of anything else. Do I think there's other teams that I like be more interested or whatever? Sure. We can get into like him and Alex Sarr and all of that, but ultimately it does not matter. And I will just quickly mention here, and I will mention conference play a lot. I've explained that on previous pods that I think conference play is really interesting because you play some teams twice. I think scouting is different. Teams figure out their rotations. You're not surprising people with what you're able to do. Cooper Flagg has only gotten better throughout his freshman season. He is in conference play. This is 15 games, Sam. 22 points on 54, 47, 85, getting to the free throw line almost 7 times, over 4 assists. We know what the defense is. Cooper Flagg is unquestionably the number 1 pick for me, and all 30 teams would take him.
I believe that is right. So speaking of conference play, I had an NBA scout friend text me this earlier, I think on Friday, US time, maybe. So this does not include Cooper Flagg's most recent game, but Cooper Flagg's in conference BPM right now, box plus minus, is 15.9, which is like breaking the scale, basically. Do you know what number 2 is?
So this is just conference number. This is all conferences?
No, just the ACC.
Just the ACC.
In the ACC.
Let's go 10.
It's 8.6.
Wow. Who is that?
Literally,
do you know who that?
Victor Lakeen from Clemson. Yeah. And by the way, Sion James is 3rd. I think Sion James is an interesting prospect that not nearly enough people are talking about, to be clear. But Con Knappel is also 5th in this metric as well. Con has been very, very good. Yeah. But Cooper Flagg is literally lapping the field statistically in the ACC right now. He is 18 years old. He is the youngest player in this class. He is unbelievable how good he is as an overall prospect. Yeah. Cooper Flagg is going number 1 overall. I actually, like, knock on wood, we don't want this to happen. I just want to be clear about this. I think we are at the point where if he was to get like injured, like quite seriously, I think he would still go number 1 overall.
So I feel like you either mentioned that to me recently on or off. And I think initially I scoffed at it a little bit, but now I think I agree with you. Like, I think that the potential, what he's shown, he's played enough games that you can believe in the sample size, all of that. Obviously, unless it was an injury that like scared you about the athleticism or something, I was even on Synergy looking at the shooting numbers, Sam, and, synergy wise on catch and shoot threes overall, 39%, guarded ones, 40%, unguarded, 38%, dribble threes, he's at 40%, only 20, but it's like, it's just really good across the board. And again, like, we're talking about the offense in an overly positive way when that was the question mark, if there was a question mark in terms of the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
Because the defense,
the offense has been better than the defense this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and so I think that's what separates him, is it's just been incredible.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He is on par with Zion Williamson as a prospect to me. People melted down about Zion. I think Zion like showcased a little bit higher of a ceiling at Duke, but you can't underestimate the floor. Like, we knew that Zion had a real floor with the injuries. Like, he had been hurt leading into his season at Duke. He largely stayed healthy at Duke, like, other than a couple of minor like speed bumps or whatever. But he is like, Cooper Flagg's floor is so much higher than what Zion's is. Yeah, I guess Zion's ceiling's a little bit higher, but like, I don't know how much higher. It's not like crazy, ridiculously higher. It was higher, but when you throw in the floor, I don't know, man. Like, if you made me bet right now, I will have a higher grade on Cooper than I did on Zion.
Interesting.
If you made me kind of say that, and that's the last, like, great player to come through the draft process through college, right? Victor Wembanyama is obviously like a totally different ball game and everything, and that's a whole other consideration when translating European stats to the NBA. College wise, like, Victor has just been unbelievable. There's no other way to put it.
Yep.
Okay. Number 2. We have got the New Orleans Pelicans here. I still have Dylan Harper at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
It is a closer conversation than what I thought it would be. And yet I still can't actually, get anywhere else, right? Dylan Harper this season's averaging 18.8 points, 4.1 rebound or 4.1 assists, 4.7 rebounds per game, shooting 48% from the field. If you look at the numbers recently, now that he's like kind of back from this little injury spell, his game against Illinois was just like completely obscene. I don't know if you've watched that yet, Bryce. I'm probably going to do a breakdown on that on the YouTube channel this week or maybe next week. He went for 28 points in that game, and I believe had like 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, went 7 of 15 from the field. When I think it was like 3 of 5 from 3, it just kind of showcased everything that we love about Dylan Harper. Over his last 6 games here, or no, 7 games, I'm sorry. He played those like 13 minutes against Michigan State too. So like really, this includes that game when it probably shouldn't, but even including that game where he had 6 points and like barely played, he still is averaging 16, 4, and 4. Yeah, the percentages are a little bit lower during that time because he had the 3 for 11 game against Penn State. And he went like 7 for 17 against Maryland as well. But man, it's just the creativity, the ability to get to the lane, the ability to get paint touches, despite the fact that he's playing at Rutgers where they have no space. Like genuinely 0, 0, 0 space to go anywhere at any time. And he's still finding the creases. To me, that's kind of the difference between him and Ace, is that Ace hasn't really been able to find those like driving lanes, whereas Dylan is finding them. Dylan's also a real passer, obviously. I am a big Dylan Harper fan, and he would still be my pick at number 2.
Yeah, I have him second on my board as things sit right now. It'd be interesting with New Orleans, but I think you take him, you figure it out with DeJounte Murray, and then eventually he takes over for that. What I like with Harper is like the body, the build, the body control, and the balance. I don't think he like has like this wiggle and shake that is like gonna wow you, but I think it's very fun, practical, like he has like a really nice secondary defender navigation dribble. He has a really sick hesitation in and out dribble. So like, I think it's very practical in the way he does it. He's not super twitchy athletically to where it's like that same highlighty level type stuff, but it's very fun, nuanced, practical way with his handle. And then again, the body control and all of that. And again, just looking at synergy stuff in just half court, 65% around the rim. But what I also like with Dylan Harper is like he's 40% on catch and shoot threes this year. And I know the overall 3-point percentage isn't great in conference play. It's down even more, but I think the shooting's been better than what I thought. Like I know again, there's probably still some questions and concerns, but I was nervous about it. So
I do want to talk about the shooting.
Okay.
Because I think I am more worried about the shooting than you are, for what it's worth.
Sure.
If you look at like the pull-up numbers particularly, which is what he'll be asked to do.
Those are the ones that are concerning, right? Is like he has to shoot it better off the dribble.
Yeah. So Dylan Harper this year on mid-range jumpers is shooting 24% on 37 attempts. On 3-point jumpers off of pull-ups, he's shooting 27% on about 3 of those per game. So that's the big inflection point here with Dylan Harper is what level does he get to as a pull-up shooter? That's the real key to me. And look, like, you can go back through history and you can see guys that weren't awesome pull-up shooters who became really good pull-up shooters in the NBA, right? Like this isn't a like death knell by any stretch of the imagination, especially because like I think Dylan's touch is not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. But, if you look at Cade Cunningham, a player he's often kind of compared to in terms of like not a super athlete, slinks his way around the lane, everything like that. Cade Cunningham shot 29.6% on mid-range jumpers this year, or in his year at Oklahoma State. I'm sorry. Bryce, what is Cade's entire game based around right
Yeah,
now?
he lives
in the
he lives in the
NBA?
mid-range across the
Yeah.
realm, from baseline to the middle of the floor, and yes.
Yeah. So, 35% though on pull-up threes that year for Cade. So you saw the kind of juxtaposition. And by the way, he shot 46 on catch and shoot threes, Cade. So I think Cade has better touch as a shooter than what Harper did, honestly. And I think Cade is a much better passer than what Dylan Harper is.
So it's funny, real quick. I have it in my notes.
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham comp is something I have seen, but I'm not sure he has the same feel for the game. So like
Yeah.
my immediate
And
thought.
it's more that Cade is special in that regard.
Sure. But
Yeah.
but being special in that regard is important when you're not a uber athlete. Like, all of the other qualities that you can be elite or special at really become that much more important. And Dylan, I'm not saying he's a bad athlete, but he's not like, you don't watch him and go super explosion, super twitchy.
Yep. And by the way, like in Dylan's case, the high school finishing numbers were not great. You saw a lot of the tools that he's displayed this year. And I think he will finish at a high level. And ultimately, that's the big difference between him and Cade as well.
Sure.
Cade is not a great finisher, has never really been like a fantastic finisher, I would argue. I have Cade's numbers up here. You just mentioned Dylan shooting 65% at the rim. I mean, I guess Cade did shoot 64% at the rim that year, but he never got there.
Was that
the thing.
Was that in all scenarios or just half court? Because
just half court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
what surprisingly.
Yeah, interesting.
But again, like he didn't get there a ton. Dylan gets there. So that's to me kind of the difference between the two is overall players. I'm a fan of Dylan Harper. I have concerns in some respect, but I think the shooting will come around and kind of assuage those concerns enough to where I still have him at 2, but it's not as ironclad, I guess, as it was originally when I kind of went through this.
Sure.
Okay. Number 3, Bryce, you are up.
So this is the Utah Jazz. I will just say that I have these guys all in a similar tier. And so if I really felt the need to go some sort of fit or whatever, I would. With Utah, I don't see that need. Listen, I know he's very polarizing for people. I understand the questions that we'll talk about, but I'm still going to take Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is just a player that, in terms of the size, the shot making, the potential of a true two-way wing is something that I think NBA teams are always looking for. And he's shown me enough to just buy, like, there's a ceiling here that I will buy into, especially in the top 5. And I think that ceiling is definitely higher than VJ Edgecombe. The Kasparis will be interesting. We're both huge Kasparis guys. But again, like, looking at conference numbers for Ace, he is averaging 19, Sam, on 46, 39, 73. And I know some of that comes in like these big explosive games. Like, I understand it. And I understand the shot diet. I get it. I just can't not buy into this size, the potential on the defensive end. Not saying it's practical, but the potential. He does rebound. The handle is a real question mark. But talk about space with Dylan. It's not like Ace has a ton of space. That team is kind of a mess. I will go ahead and stick with Ace Bailey at number 3 here.
Okay. So Ace Bailey, I did a breakdown on that Indiana game a while back where he had 39, and I thought it was like the worst 39-point game I've ever seen in my life from a college player, basically. He followed that up with a 9-point game where he went 3 for 16 against Wisconsin, was quite poor in that game. Since then, since January 9th, Ace Bailey is averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 49, 43, 88, with 1.1 steals and 1.4 blocks per game. The thing that's really important to me here about Ace is that he's getting better.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, every time that you watch Ace, you feel like I don't want to say the processing is like there, but it's improved. I don't think that he's making like crazy high level passing reads, but I think that what he is doing is cutting down like the catastrophic reads whenever I watch him. And yes, like some of these games came without Dylan Harper. Some of these games he had to like kind of carry everything for Rutgers as well. Like, you know, he had 37 against Northwestern. Like he was really, really good in that game, I thought, and was really, really effective. In that Illinois game where they won, he had 18, but he ended up with 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks. Like that was the kind of awesome game that I really, really wanted to see from him. Kind of bring everything together all in one kind of single performance. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then like the Maryland game, he was clearly sick. Like I watched that game last week. You know, he had, if you look and you see he had 24 minutes played and, you know, 4 points and 4 rebounds. Like he was like on the sideline, like with a towel over his head, like clearly not feeling well. So just like don't necessarily look at it only from like the numbers perspective, like really try and dig into the context on Ace, in my opinion. You know, the defense with Ace can be up and down. He makes these really big active action-y plays, and then he will like completely blow like 4 coverages in a row.
Give up a backdoor.
Yeah, it just like completely drives me insane watching him. But the talent is there. Like I still think that the best case scenario for him is to go somewhere where he doesn't have to be like a top 2 option immediately. Sure. Where he can just like get a chance to kind of settle in a little bit. Honestly, going to Utah, where I think that scheme actually kind of fits him well, where it's a lot of movement. It's a lot of like, you know, catch and shoot opportunities. Isaiah Collier has been like kind of fun recently, the efficiency and the turnovers notwithstanding. Like he makes high level passing reads.
He's putting up big assist numbers though for a guy that was a 2nd round pick in his rookie season.
Right. So like to me, when I see Ace, it is like Michael Porter Jr.-y to me still when I watch him, but probably a little bit better upside than that. If like he really can bring it together in terms of the like passing and playmaking. But like, again, you know, this is a good comment. Like, you know, Michael Porter Jr. could have gone way higher in the draft if he didn't have the back injury. Well, he had the back injury, right? And I think that Ace's Michael Porter Jr., when he played like in Washington State in high school, was Nathan Hale was like a flexible athlete that was unbelievable and like could really, really do a whole lot of different things. But then he hurt the back and like that flexibility kind of went away from him a little bit, unfortunately. And I think that Ace doesn't quite have that elite level of flexibility, but maybe he can develop it. I don't know. Like here's the thing too. Ace is also 18 years old.
Yeah.
He is 18 years old. He's putting up these numbers and he is like getting way better every time that you see him on the court, this week notwithstanding because of the illness. But like, I don't know, man. The more I watch him, I'm just like, this is a really interesting player that like, you know, yes, there are flaws and there are holes, but he's definitely a top 5 pick. Like there's no, like anybody that doesn't have him in the top 5, like you're overestimating the assist to turnover piece of it a little bit. And I say that as somebody that like really values processing and floor movement and everything like that, because being able to like make an impact when you're not scoring is absolutely critical. The fact that he's gotten better at that throughout the season is the most important thing to me.
I struggle with the assist to turnover thing whenever we just use it as a blanket argument as well. And I'm sure I'm guilty of it, but like I was watching a game today and somebody made a play where they broke down the defense, made an awesome pass, and the big man completely blew the dunk. It was actually Jaron Pierre Jr. And
I was going to ask you, was it Danny Wolf? Because like Michigan does that with him all the time.
So that's my point though. So like I'm watching Jaron Pierre Jr. trying to figure out how good of a passer he is, how much of a creator he can be. And his teammate completely blows a layup. I'm not even trying to crush his teammate. It's whatever. And then you think about like guys who rack up assists because they have great off-ball shooters whose coaches draw up great off-ball actions. And it's like, well, quite honestly, I could have got 3 of those 5 assists because I could have made the on-time, on-target pass to the wide open shooter off the staggered. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I'm not here trying to push Ace Bailey as a great decision maker. I literally have it in my notes that I think he's a willing passer. He's just not a good one because the nuance of his passes in terms of the nuance of decisions, the velocity, the targetness, like that stuff has to be better. I'm just saying I don't always like when we say, oh, he has a negative assist turnover ratio, must be a bad decision maker. There's probably some truth to that, but I think Cam Whitmore is the one that gets me riled up about this sometimes because, like,
Yeah.
every time I watch Cam, I'm like, it's not like he doesn't ever pass. Like, people will throw out his assist numbers like he never passes the ball. And I'll be like, no, I can show you 4 where he makes the correct decision. His teammates just didn't make the shot on that particular one. So,
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying they're high level reads guys. I think sometimes it gets taken a touch too far when we're evaluating these players.
Well, and for the folks that like do really care about box plus minus, right?
Sure.
Like as an indicator. Do you know who has the highest box plus minus among freshmen in the Big Ten in conference play?
Is it? It's no way it's Ace.
It is now Ace. Yeah.
Wow.
His is at 7.4. Casparis is at 7.2. Merez Johnson's at 7. Derek Queen's at 6.1. Dylan Harper's at 5.8. Jace Richardson's at 5.6. Like he's been really, really he has impacted the game more than just as a scorer.
Wait, hold on. So that's 5 and 9 in conference play Rutgers compared to what'd you say, Kasparis at 9 and 7 in conference play. Who else? Who else did you say there?
Yeah. Merez Johnson's also Illinois. Derek Queen, Jace Richardson,
Maryland.
Junie Mobley is here.
Michigan
Yeah.
State 11 and 3. Junie Mobley 7. Like on a team. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for Ace.
Yeah, Ace has been genuinely better in conference play, and it's worth calling that out.
Sure.
I think. Okay, number 4, you are up with the Charlotte Hornets.
You are up.
Oh, I'm up with the Charlotte Hornets. Great. Yep. Okay, this is actually an easy pick for me, and I love Kasparis. Like, yeah, I think Kasparis is a stud, but this is VJ.
Yeah, I agree. This is a great fit for him and for them, I think.
Yeah, this is the exact player that they need.
Yeah.
Like the Charlotte Hornets should be ecstatic if they get VJ Edgecombe, because what do they need more than anything? They need like super high level defenders.
Yep.
VJ Edgecombe is a fucking fantastic defender. I love watching him on that side of the court. He's active. He's aggressive. He is awesome at like sliding and being able to drop his hips, being able to play on the ball defensively. He's a havoc creator off the ball defensively. And oh, by the way, he's actually been quite good on offense recently as well. If you look through what he's been capable of. 14.6 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 45, 36, 80 over the course of the season. But again, he's a player that has gotten better over the course of the season, which is what you like to see from freshmen. VJ Edgecombe, had this 30-point game against Kansas State, which was really, really big for them. He had 28 at BYU, huge for them. Had 17 against UCF in a big win that they needed. Had 18 against Cincinnati in a big win that they needed. Like, he has been awesome kind of night in, night out up until these last 2 games where Houston just like really pressured him and made his life hell on the ball. And then against West Virginia, like, he just missed a billion shots, but actually passed the ball reasonably well. Like, he had ended up with 6 assists in that game versus 0 turnovers. But if you look at those last 11 games, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, shooting 49, 44, 88. The thing I keep coming back to, though, with VJ, I still don't like him on the ball. Like,
no.
Yeah, like, I don't think he can really play on the ball that much. And
that's why this is a good fit for him, though, because Charlotte won't need to ask him to play on the ball. Wouldn't need to ask him to play on the ball.
Right. He is listed at 6'5". I am genuinely fascinated to see what he comes in measurement wise as, because you watch him on the court, it doesn't look 6'5". I'm just going to say it. We'll see what the height ends up being, but he's also very slight, right? More than anything. But hey, you have like this big guard that you want to play off of the ball in LaMelo Ball defensively. You can put VJ on point guards and 2 guards and everything, and just let him loose at the point of attack. It's a really, really, really enticing fit to me next to LaMelo Ball. And that's before we get to the fact that VJ can really shoot, good catch and shoot player. Get him in transition with LaMelo. Oh my goodness, that'll be an
Uber
incredibly,
athlete.
incredibly
Uber
fun.
athlete.
Yeah, like unbelievable athlete, not like a Men Thompson,
No, not there. Sure.
ant level athlete, but like a top 5%
I
athlete
say
in the
next tier,
NBA for
right?
sure.
Probably next tier.
Yeah, I love VJ. I think he's going to be an awesome player. The thing that I keep kind of saying is he reminds me of, I've said this since the preseason, like if you put a jetpack on Gary Harris's back and you made him like a crazy transition athlete and you made him, you know, capable of slashing and getting to the rim like a little bit quicker than what Gary did. But Gary had that ability to slash and get to the basket. He was obviously a great 3-and-D player, as like a smaller 6'4" guard. I think that this is a home run fit in Charlotte.
This is an archetype that I feel like when we get to a trade deadline, when we get to an offseason, when you start looking at teams' roster construction, especially these ones who have jumbo initiators, which a lot of teams seem to have, it's always a player they're looking for, right? It's a player that Orlando went out and coveted in free agency with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, right? And then we said, how is Denver going to replace Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? And listen, we don't need to talk about the Pistons but it's like a player, okay, off of Cade Cunningham, what do you need? Perimeter guys that can defend and space the floor. Luka, defend and space, and this is what he does. I think he can really, really defend. He makes plays on the defensive end, and people are going to get tired of it, so I won't give all the numbers. But in conference play, Sam, he's shooting 42% from three. On the season, he's 44% on unguarded catch and shoots, 39 on almost 100 attempts overall catch and shoot. I respect the fact that he started off so poorly and has been able to round back in shape, because we've seen where it's been tough for freshmen to do that with high expectations.
Well, and he's a like 40% in high school, both years at Lehigh, right?
Correct,
like, so no, I'm not that worried about the catch and shoot stuff. I worry a lot about the pull up stuff. Like, I don't really think he's a pull up shooter at all.
Yeah,
but
we agree very much that he's almost, maybe not almost, but purely an off-ball player. Like, he is an off-ball guard, off-ball wing, however you want to say it, but he is an you're not drafting him to run pick and rolls and stuff like that.
Yeah, like someone brought up, does Jaden Ivey make sense?
He doesn't pressure the rim like Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, like Jaden, is just like a way better on-ball player than what VJ is right now. And they're about the same age coming in too, by the way.
And VJ is a much better defensive prospect than what Jaden Ivey was.
Totally. Yeah, I think VJ's like floor is higher. His ceiling is probably a little bit lower than Jaden's, honestly. But
yeah,
the floor here with VJ to me is quite high, because he's going to defend, he's going to shoot.
Yep.
Like this is just going to be an effective NBA player to me. Like, I feel he is a easy 9-figure NBA player to me. Yeah. Like Cason Wallace, another guy that I've brought up with VJ. Like that's a name that is very, very close to me.
Yeah. I don't mind that as much.
But he's way more athletic. Like, he's way, way more athletic than what Cason is. Okay. Number 5, you're up at the Toronto Raptors.
So I don't love this, but I will not break my rules. And so I will take Kasparis here, because my rules say
Yakashonas.
Yeah. I don't want to break my tier, and I do have a tier break here with him. There's some other names I think would be interesting for Toronto, like if they end up falling to 6, 7, 8, somewhere like that. I would just work under the assumption that they're not going to keep all of those guys they currently have anyway, and maybe this would allow them to move on from them. But that notwithstanding, Kasparis, a guy I've been interested in going back to the summer, can score the ball, can orchestrate the offense. Love the way like he passes off the live dribble, throws hook passes, does it with both hands. I still worry a little bit about the turnovers. Like, maybe I'm harping on this too much. Every time I watch, it's something that I continue to put in my notes.
No, it's real. Yeah.
Defensively, I think it's a mixed bag at times. Like, the pre-college stuff I really liked. Some of the stuff in college is good. Some not as much. But yeah, I like his feel for the game. I love the creative finesse finishing, like those type of stuff. I'll have to look up the actual numbers here as we talk through it. But yeah, Kasparis definitely here for me.
You remove Kasparis's first 5 games at Illinois, where he was clearly just like feeling it out in a real way. 17.5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting 47, 36, 84, 3.5 turnovers per game. Real factor. Can't deny that. But 61.3 true shooting percentage, 55 effective field goal percentage, has been really good. Has been really, really good, in my opinion. Super sharp playmaker, really, really creative mind when he has the ball in his hands. I'm an enormous, enormous fan of Yakashonis. In terms of a fit in Toronto, it's weird now that they have Ingram, because that's a lot of like on ball talent. But, you know, Toronto fans keep telling me that, you know, they just have all these guys and they can all play off the ball. We'll see.
Yeah, listen.
I'd like to know more.
To be clear, if there was not a tier break here, like if I had Common somehow in this tier, like I would rather put, and I definitely don't. He's not even the next player on my board, to be clear, but I just don't. Like I just have a very clear tier break. Like even more so if this was like into the lottery, like I have another tier break technically at 15, 16. I would be more comfortable I'm not real comfortable breaking anybody else into the top 5, I guess, is a long way of getting to that's where I'm at. And I just think you take him and you figure it out from there. Just real quick, the half court at the rim numbers, 66%, 65% at the rim.
Yep.
The shooting has been solid, 37% on catch and shoot. Not quite as good off the dribble, but taking a bunch, 33%. So the jumper will be interesting to follow. But yeah, big Kasparis fan.
Yeah, like similar-ish kind of projection to me is Austin Reeves.
Sure. Cool. Yeah.
You know, like a guy that's going to fit in both on the ball and off the ball, as it can be a primary playmaker, can be a secondary playmaker, I think, for you. Defensively, like smart, knows where to be. You'll have to work around it a little bit on the ball, I think. But in general, like Kasparis is a guy that I just really, really trust.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Next.
This is where it gets fun.
Number 6, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh, they keep
this pick.
They keep their pick. Good for Philly. Good for Philly.
Okay.
Have fun.
Let's talk through this a little bit, because this is where it gets quite difficult for me. They're building around this idea of Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. I am half inclined to just take Malawak here and be like, let's just get a fucking amazing backup center and make sure that we're not worried about this anymore. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't think they would do that, though. I think they will try to maximize this window. In that vein, you're looking for like a big wing kind of player, I would argue. You have Quentin Grimes already, so that probably knocks out like, you know, to me it should knock out like the Trey Johnsons, the the Cons, some of those guys. I'm gonna go Liam McNeely here.
Okay.
Kind of just like a bigger wing who does it all.
Yeah.
6'6", 6'7" something like that. Real shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have full belief in the jumper at this point. I don't know how much you've dug into like the UConn tape recently, especially like since he's been back. I mean, they just look so much cleaner with him being back. I know they just lost this game to Seton Hall, but like the game against Creighton, I thought he was so critical for them and was unbelievable. Goes for 38 and 10. He had 18 and 11 in that loss to St. John's. Rebounds well. He's tough. He's physical. Shooting, 38% from 3 this season. He is a sharp off-ball mover for a team that has a lot of on-ball capability already. I think that this works for me.
Yeah, Liam is, listen, for he's 6 on my board because he's just the player I trust the most. And I'm not going to sit here and act like Liam McNeely has the highest ceiling, because there's some other guys that I think maybe just like pure talent, maybe pure ability to go get buckets. Common, even just like what he potentially could be as a big. But I think if you just want to include a player onto your team that can really space the floor first and foremost, but does all the little things. And here's the thing I like about Liam. He played at Montverde, where he was this, like, had to fill his role and excel in his role, and he did it. Now he's gone to UConn, done the same thing, but also in some moments has stepped up and been the guy. Like in that game you referenced, he's hitting big shots. I think he can hit shots off screens. He's strong. You mentioned the rebounding. I think he's going to be in the right spot defensively. Like, I don't think he's going to lock guys down like point of attack defender type stuff, but I think he can be a part of a scheme. I've been a Liam McNeely fan going back to the Montverde days, and nothing he has done at Connecticut has changed my opinion on the type of NBA impact player he's going to be as a wing.
And here's kind of my issue here. No matter what we do here at number 6, it doesn't look great.
Sure.
Right. There's isn't a number 6 guy in this class, in my opinion. I like Colin a little bit.
Yeah.
I like Liam. Common has come on and improved quite a bit.
Can I throw a name at you?
Queen's numbers are okay. Go ahead.
My thing with like, do you think Asa Newell can play the 4? Like, could you put him in there and have him play the 4 with Joel?
No.
So that one doesn't make any sense then, right? Like, do you think Derek Queen can go in and play the 4 next to Joel?
No.
So, like, to me, that's where those guys are interesting, and I'm sure they're going to get drafted soon. Like, I don't think Trey Johnson makes sense with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain and what you've seen there. Like, same thing with Ben Serif. Like, I love Ben Serif. I'm probably going to end up higher on Serif than maybe anybody, but I just think adding Liam McNeely to this roster makes the most sense right here.
I'm not the biggest Trey Johnson guy.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like, yeah. For people, I don't have him near this spot. I just have not seen enough defensively. I've not seen enough as a passer this year. I understand that, like, he's being asked to do a lot, but the problem is that the tape at Link, it looks the exact same. You know what I mean? And I get he's coming off this big game against Kentucky where he's like carried them to a win, but
I'm assuming I will be the one to take Trey Johnson today. And probably all of our mocks, which I am comfortable with. Neither of us are as high on Trey Johnson as most. I would say I've probably warmed up to the ceiling idea, depending on the team, more so than you have. But neither of us are this high on him.
Is he better than Cam Thomas? We'll talk about this when
yeah, that's interesting because that's the name that popped in my head last night. So yeah.
Okay. Number 7, the Brooklyn Nets. You're up, Bryce.
Speaking of Cam Thomas and the Brooklyn Nets, where do I want to go here with that team? Oh man. So I think what I will do here is just go best player on my board. I think that makes the most sense for the Nets. I don't think I need to bounce around with fit or anything like that. And I will say Common is the next player on my board. So
for what it's worth, as somebody who has had a whole lot of questions about Common this year, and I'm doing like a way deeper dive into Common here coming up this week. I also have Common in my top 10 now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me go to you because I've been a fan of Common going back we've kind of been different. Like this is probably the least gap you and I have had in terms of Common. And real quick here, just with the Nets, I think you could go a bunch of different ways. I realize they have Nick Claxton. I like Day'Ron Sharpe. I just don't know what they're doing at the center position. So this is one where if you wanted to go with more like with a guard, a point guard, something like that, I would understand. They could definitely use wings. I get it. But I'm just thinking, again, I'm going to go ceiling. I'm going to go best player available on my board. And because of that potential ceiling, I'll go Common. What have you seen that I guess maybe that's better for the listeners and that's got you into the top 10 with Common, because you very much we argued, not argued, but we talked a lot about Common and our differences.
Yeah, for what it's worth, like I don't think I don't see the ceiling. I think
Okay.
that more than anything, I see a level of safety
Okay.
now with Common that I hadn't seen previously. And that's exciting. The fact that I think he's going to be a really good defender. Like I've seen enough from him defensively where I'm just like, okay, he moves super well. He's switchable. He's athletic enough to like guard on the perimeter a little bit. He doesn't really block shots, which is weird, but I think he is like a pretty good rim protector. Actually, like I think that he uses his length around the basket fairly well. The ball screen defense is still weird, in my opinion. When I watch him, I'm still questionable on, okay, his gaps are a little bit off. He's a little bit off in terms of getting stuck in no man's land. But he's 7'2" with a 7'6" wingspan. As soon as he gets taught those things, like he has so much more margin for error than somebody even like Asa Newell, right? Like Asa Newell's like 6'11" with, shorter arms, right? Malawak is just like a higher level impact defender than what Asa Newell is. I worry about the hands with Malawak. I've talked about that all season. That remains true. I don't really think Malawak's going to shoot. But if you can get the hands right to where he just literally catches lobs above his face, it's hard to see this failing to me. Like someone, I was talking to somebody for a team and this is a hilarious, like cross-racial comparison. They brought up Jakob Poeltl to me. And I was like, when Poeltl was coming out of Utah, his hands were kind of funky. He's developed that. Like he has really, really good hands now. He was pretty good in terms of switchability, but wasn't like a massive, massive blocks guy, if I remember correctly. But he just kind of produces. He rebounds. He finishes around the basket well. Poeltl was like at 1.6 blocks per game at Utah. It was kind of a weird comparison that I was like, the more I think about it, the more I understand where you're going with it. And that sounds reasonable to me.
So it's interesting because we both landed with him in our top 10. I think for not completely different reasons. I think if he ends up having to be a Jakob Poeltl type player, I think the floor is actually lower, because I don't know that he does like the short roll stuff and all of those things that Poeltl does. I don't know if Common does that.
I don't know if Jakob did at Utah though either.
So
I guess Jakob passed it a little bit better, but
so that's I obviously was definitely not evaluating whenever Jakob was coming out. So I'm only evaluating, my idea of Jakob Poeltl is only what we see now. I will say that I think I have seen some of that floor raising stuff in terms of being able to do true big man stuff more. And that is important, because I think the ceiling still comes with the potential to shoot it. And I understand why you have no confidence in that whatsoever. But I think some of the defensive stuff, he showed ability to bend, some movement. I think some of his ball screen drop coverage stuff has improved. It's just not consistent, but he's at least showing ones where it's like, oh, he stayed more square on that one. He didn't immediately open his hips and get beat and then not able to recover. And then we've talked about the hands thing. It's something we talk about a lot because of Allstar. I think he like has decent body control and takes contact well. It's just like he doesn't catch the ball consistently, but there's some plays where he catches with contact, finishes with touch, not a dunk, gets a catch, immediate handoff, gets into his roll really fast, and then poster lob finish through contact. So there's enough where like he's playing through contact with the lobs that I like it. It's just like, I still don't have a great understanding of, do hands improve with these guys, right? Like what is the skill development path? Who is the example of awful hands in college got better throughout their NBA career? Like I would love for somebody to, because there's obviously no stat that really backs that up. But
and for what it's worth, like Jakob got better at the hand stuff as a sophomore. at Utah too. Like it wasn't like Jakob was a one and done and like couldn't, catch anything. He got better at it like in college as well. Like I want to make that clear for people. But yeah, it's weird. Trying to figure out where this all kind of sits, I guess. But like it's hard to imagine somebody this big who can move his feet, who's this young, like just totally failing, I guess.
The other thing is, like, we bring up the age with Cooper. Common's only 2 months older. Wait, October, 3 months
that's right.
older than Cooper. Yeah. So it's not like I have it written down here, 5th youngest player in Division I basketball. I don't know if that's still true or not. I can't reference that, but like very young player. So.
Okay. Let's go to number 8 now. I'm drafting for the Chicago Bulls. Goodness. Okay. This is annoying. So they have 1 million guards. Just 1 million of them.
They have any point guards on that team? Anybody that can? Oh,
do they have point guards? They have guys who can handle the ball.
At least Trey Jones is a free agent, so maybe he won't.
I think I kind of like the idea of Murray Boyles here.
Okay.
I have Murray Boyles like a couple of spots lower than this. I actually really potentially like the idea of Murray Boyles with Modis as a pairing long term. But my God, can you imagine like the Bulls being the number 8 overall pick, and they take a guy that we're taking because he's like a super high level defender and passer and like does all of these things, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the right pick though. So Colin Murray Boyles averaging 16, 2.5 assists, 9 rebounds per game this season. Just an unbelievable defensive playmaker, unbelievable defender, processes the game. So, it's such a high level. It's obscene. Yeah. Shooting 57% from the field this season. I don't really buy him shooting threes yet. Like, I don't know that that's going to be a thing, but maybe it gets there. If you look at the last little run here, he's been really, really good, even though they've lost these last, 12 games in conference play or whatever. He's averaging 16.7 rebounds, 3 assists versus only 2.5 turnovers. The defensive numbers are outrageous. The way he sees the court defensively on that end is just insane. I think that, so someone asked, why would the Bulls take Colin Murray Boyles over Asa Newell? Murray Boyles is just a way better defender than what Asa Newell is. They have very similar concerns offensively, insofar as are they going to be able to consistently finish at the rim? Do you buy the jumper at all? But the level to which Murray Boyles is ahead of Asa defensively is drastic to me. The more I watch him, this is, to me, it's not a pick I'm excited about, to be clear, for the Bulls, but I like the fit of Murray Boyles kind of doing everything that Modis doesn't really do right now, and just letting Modis develop and see where he can get to offensively in terms of ceiling.
I mean, if you can figure out the spacing, it's a really interesting wing combination of those two guys with their length. Modis isn't nearly the defensive player, but he has some defensive playmaking ability with his length and athleticism and stuff like that. Yeah, Murray Boyles, he moves really well. Very disruptive. He just have very active hands. And, it goes all the way back to last season. I think he processes the ball processes the floor well offensively. I think he can pass. I actually think he's a really good screener. I don't know it'll be interesting how he ends up getting used in the league, right? I think that's my hard thing with him. And you just mentioned it in terms of offensively, I have concerns with him in terms of, okay, yes, he's this really good passer. What are the play types that gets used in? How does that get used? Is he the main ball screen guy for a team not being the true 5-man? do they throw it to him in the mid post? Can he score to draw double teams and play out of that? Can he attack a closeout? Does he get closeouts? So those are my questions offensively. But to your point, and this is from someone, and I may draft Asa very next. I don't know who the team is. I had Asa higher recently, but it was like, I finally wrote in my notes, is like, I don't know what Asa does offensively. And so it's a lot of the same things. And I think this is our point, Sam. We said this at the top. 6 through 10 is going to be like, well, we'll see.
It's not an exciting area of the draft.
It's not. And here's the thing. It's going to flip a switch because then all of a sudden guys are going to fall to like 15 and we're going to, hey, like really like this guy at 15. If we were taking CMB at 15, I think we would be like, this is great value at 15. But as it stands right now, like he ends up at 8. And that's where this draft is kind of unique.
Yeah, the processing ability is just like super, super high level.
It truly is.
For Murray Boyles. Like the way he thinks the game out there, he's just seeing it faster than everybody else. There might be some upside in terms of like even adding more quickness, I think, if he can like thin out a little bit more.
He has changed his body already, right? So who knows where else he could take it.
That's 100% right. Okay. Number 9, you're up. The Portland Trail Blazers here.
Portland Trail Blazers. Man, this one, where do I want to go? I knew I was going to get this one with them. All right. So we have the backcourt. We have the big man situation. So I don't think I want to go back-to-back bigs with them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I want to give them a wing of some sort. I'm just going to stick. Listen, this is a player I'm higher on than most. I'm going to assume that Anthony Simons is not on this team next year. And so I'm going to go ahead and add another guard to the mix. I'm going to take Ben Seraph.
Okay. So played a game in Portland earlier this year, actually.
Yeah, and I don't think he was the one that everybody liked. I think Noah was the one, but
no, teams I talked to came away more impressed with Ben.
Okay,
I know that Noah had like 20-8 or whatever he did, but Ben, teams like Ben that were there.
Listen, this is a guy like I'm just may end up being wrong on Sam having this high, and I'm okay with it. Again, going back to this summer. And I wrote it then, I think he creates as much separation off the bounce as anybody in the class. Like he has real wiggle, real change, start, stop. I personally buy like the passing and some of that stuff, not maybe as like a true like primary guy. The shooting concerns are fair. I get it. He's under 30% from 3 right now. I understand. But has played well recently, has put up back-to-back really nice scoring games, back-to-back really nice scoring and assist games. I just think he's a really good guard that I just buy like his ability, physical build. He's not super athletic, but I think he can create separation. I think he makes winning plays. The defense is another one where I actually had somebody text me after the last time we talked about the defense. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. Not exactly sure. I thought it was really good in the summer. I don't think it's been as good with Ulm. But I like Ben Seraph. I think he's a good player.
Yeah. So the defense is my thing for the defense is that I don't think he's a good defender right now. I think it's a little bit crazy the way that like the coaching staff with Ulm treats him, where it's like, oh my God, like we can't have him on the court.
Yeah,
half the time defensively. So I don't love this fit, to be honest. In Portland, they have Denny already, who they play on the ball like a fairly real amount.
Sure. Yeah.
They have obviously the Israeli connection here. They have Scoot, who they want to get all sorts of on-ball reps to. Shaden's going to be on the ball a decent amount, you would think.
I mean, listen. I mean, I feel like that's what Shaden does right now is play on the ball.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I don't love the fit here, but I understand what you're going for, at least just in terms of like taking the next guy on your board kind of. And honestly, like the way this Portland front office is built, that's kind of been what they've done. I feel like they just take the next guy.
Sure. I guess I haven't. That is interesting with Denny, who's been really good getting downhill recently as well
Been
for
amazing.
them.
Yeah.
Been really good. I still think of him as a wing where I feel like there's another room there where there's room for a guard, but
Yeah.
that's fair. Like it could get a little bit crowded with on-ball guys, and where Seraph has had the shooting concerns, spacing in general could be an issue. Like, I mean, I think the easier pick is probably Khan. And
Yeah.
I would have understood that like 100%. I assume that I don't want to put words in your mouth. My guess is he would have been in real consideration for you. But like I said, Ben is the top player on my board right now. And this would, assuming Simons leaves, I think there's some reps available. So,
Okay. Next up, number 10 for me is the San Antonio Spurs. This is just like super easy for me. This is Con Kneppel the whole way. This is one of the easiest picks I will make the entire draft that we do this. If Con Kneppel is there, they should absolutely take him because he is a big, like 6'5" to 6'6". I know he's listed at 6'7". I'll be surprised by that. Real shooter, like a very, very serious shooter. He's shooting 45, 37, 38, 89 right now from the field. If you look at any of the impact numbers, they are very, very high. He is super, super impactful among freshmen, particularly. He is, let's see here, 7th right now nationally in terms of BPM among freshmen, behind Cooper, VJ, Asa Newell, Badunga, Tahad Pettiford, Carter Bryant. We will talk through some of those names, and his minute load is just drastically higher than all of those guys, except for Newell, Edgecombe, and Cooper Flagg. Serious shooter, but on top of that, like a very good defender. He's a monster defensive basketball player. Not a monster defensive basketball player, but he's really good at Duke, at least. Super competitive, super high level character, can shoot off of movement, can shoot off of any sort of different action that you're going to run. It's a great fit next to De'Aaron Fox. It's a great fit next to a whole lot of guys on this team. I think this is a home run for them.
Yeah, so this is definitely the range for me with Knippel. And one thing I've written down for him is he can be an advantage exploiter. And that means he can shoot it, he can attack a closeout, and I very much trust him to move the ball and make the right decisions. And playing off of Fox and Wemby, he would be really, really good with that. And obviously, playing off of Steph Castle. And so because of that, Khan's not going to have to take primary defensive matchups on the perimeter. So I think when you put him against second, third, he's going to compete. He's going to get in a stance and those type of things. He's going to give effort on that end in regards to that. That puts him in a decent position. So yeah, I like Khan, and you mentioned all the numbers, just a guy that can really, really shoot it.
Yep. Okay. Honestly, don't have to talk a lot about that one. Number 11, the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. Let me look through. So made the big trade. Jimmy Butler no longer there. Hero and Bam's team here moving forward. This feels weird to be drafting with the Miami Heat this early. Khalil Ware, Andrew Wiggins. Who?
Yeah, I mean, Ware went 15 last year.
Yeah, that's true.
This is a weird spot.
Yeah. Hero, Bam. What do I want to add to this team? So, like, I don't think Asa makes sense then.
I know who I would take here.
I'm
excited to talk through it at some point here.
I don't think Trey makes sense here. I want to take somebody just to, because I think it would be. I think it's a player that you were expecting to get to take.
Yeah, that's who I would take.
But I actually think it makes sense here. Like, I think this is the team that it fits.
Yeah.
Let me just.
Bryce is just rolling through here, trying hard.
I'll do it. I'll go Jace Richardson.
Yeah. Jace Richardson to me is the pick here.
Yeah, I like it. Higher than what Like
No idea why he's listed this low on this website. That's crazy to me. But yeah, Jace is a stud.
I have him a little bit lower just in my just rankings, but we talked about this in terms of I just think this is the type of player that teams are looking for in terms of he can shoot the ball, he can defend, he can pass. He just does a little bit of everything. I think you put him in this. I think he fits really well with what Miami would value. I assume they're going to put the ball in Tyler Hero's hands, continue to do that, and let him cook. And I think Jace is a really interesting player to play off of that, to play off of Bam and those guys. So I think this is the spot where he makes sense. And quite honestly, I think he could really thrive and they would value the things that Jace Richardson does well.
So Jace Richardson has finally gotten an opportunity to get let loose a little bit here over his last 3 games. His last 3 games, he has played 26 minutes, 33 minutes, 35 minutes. These are the 3 games that he's played most in, the most minutes this season. He's averaging 17.7 points and 4.7 rebounds, shooting 54, 31, 92. 65 true shooting percentage, 1 block per game in those 3 games as well. Just a tremendous overall basketball player to me. Every time I watch him, I'm just like, oh wow, he knows exactly where he needs to be every single time that he's on the court. He is awesome with his footwork as a driver. He's awesome at being able to kind of use his frame. He's quite physical, being able to get into the lane it does. It's not nearly as good as what Jalen Brunson was, but you can see a little bit of that, right? In terms of just playing off of 2 feet, constantly on balance, making sure he gets to his spots as a lefty, right? This is another player I'm going to do a full breakdown on the YouTube channel, just because I love watching Richardson play. Passes well, knows how to make plays for his teammates. 53, 38, 87 in terms of his efficiency on the season. Just an absolutely tremendous basketball player. If you look in terms of, again, the BPM numbers, 5.6 this year for Jace. That's top 20 among all freshmen right now in conference play. All of the numbers kind of track here. All of the tape tracks to me. Now that he's playing real minutes, it tracks to me. And on top of that, again, you mentioned the defense. I think he defends at a super high level. He's small. He's probably going to be 6'2" or so, but he knows where to be. He processes the game quickly. He's a havoc player. I believe in Jace in a big way.
Yeah, no, that's what competes on the ball, navigates ball screens, made off-ball rotations. He stunts and recovers off the ball, very engaged. I think the passing is legit. So I have it here, bold, underline. I feel like he's the off-ball secondary playmaker and defender that teams are always looking for to pair with their, primary creator. And, the size for Hero isn't as much as some of the guys I mentioned earlier, but I still think, I think the biggest knock is just the overall, amount of attempts, but he's 65% at the rim in the half court. It is 34, only 34 attempts. I think he has the little floater. He's 47% on the season on catch and shoot threes. I think that's really all he needs to be able to knock down. You want to be able to knock down off the dribble, if somebody goes under a ball screen, because he can't operate ball screens as well. I just think this is the type of player that ends up getting valued by an organization like Miami.
Totally agree. Okay, number 12, the Houston Rockets. Okay. This is another tricky, weird spot to be in now. Because who are guys that Ime Udoka would really like? Who are guys that would play for Ime? They have a number of young guys here already.
Better defend.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't feel like they're a Fears team. They don't feel like a Trey Johnson team to me.
I don't think.
But they're a team that just takes talent too, though.
Sure.
I guess you could say they need a backup center, but I think that they want something different than Derek Queen, Alperen Şengün. I think they want the Steven Adams type, You know what I mean? Like I think that they
which
want
takes
the
out Asa as well.
yeah.
Asa was the name that immediately I thought of just because of like the players I have left in my tier anyway. He's probably the best defender, and I feel like could fill a need, even though it's like you said, it's not exactly the body type of center that you're talking about.
Yeah. This is a weird spot. This is a really weird spot for them.
They just have so much talent. It's hard to decide.
Yeah. And like, is this the summer where they maybe consolidated a little bit?
Sure.
You know what, dude? Like, I think they just take the talent.
That
And
might be-
honestly, like this is the spot where I have Trey Johnson being the next player. Like they just tend to take talent is what they do.
For what it's worth,
And
he's the next player on my board as well.
yeah. So okay, Trey Johnson's listed at 6'6". I think he's probably like 6'5", 6'5.5". So I don't really have a problem with that listing. Averaging 19 points per game this year. I would say he doesn't really do much else, right? So 19.8 points after yesterday's game where he was a monster against Kentucky. 44, 37, 88. He is a guy that I believe in as a shooter, much in the same way that I believed in Cam Thomas as a shooter. What do you think of the rest of his game? Because that's where I really kind of
other than shooting,
other than scoring the basketball.
Yeah. I mean it's got to be scoring the basketball. I mean, I think that is his game, and which is very important. Like, I don't want to underestimate that, but there's also some worries I have within that, I think is why I haven't. I think the right team makes sense, and then they have to be willing to just let him do that and really believe in it, because that is the value, is going to be scoring the basketball. I worry about like the rim finishing. I worry about the speed, worry about like what the shot diet's going to have to be, even though it's very, very impressive when he gets it going in some of these games.
When he's feeling it, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I will say this, I think he knows where to be on defense.
Sure.
Like, I think he generally like rotates to the right spot defensively, right? Yeah, you mentioned the rim finishing, right? Trey Johnson this year at the basket is shooting 50% at the rim. He has taken 42 half-court attempts at the rim per game as a player that takes
on the season.
What, 42 shots per game? No, I'm kidding. He takes 16 field goal attempts per game, and only 1.5 of those is a rim attempt in the half court, right? Everything is like a pull-up shot. Everything just feels like it's very difficult for him to try and get to, right? And he's had just this monster pull-up shooting year where, you know, he's shooting 36% from three on pull-ups. He's shooting 42% on mid-range jumpers on pull-ups, which is a really good number for a teenager. Like, absolutely. I know that doesn't sound great for a, you know, NBA player, and it's not quite high enough for him to take those shots in the NBA. But in terms of like a teenager where you're going to grow and become, 42 is a really, really good start. It's a really good building block. 34 on catch and shoot threes feels like a real concern to me. He does take them off of movement at times, which is good, but again, like, he just doesn't feel like he disrupts anything defensively to me. Does have the positive assist to turnover ratio, but like some of these shots are turnovers a lot of the time, it feels like to me, where they're just super, super contested and difficult shots to make. Like, I'm not a Trey Johnson. I'm not a Trey Johnson guy. I think someone asked, like, does he have a chance of becoming Devin Booker? I thought Devin's game off the bounce, you could even see it in, you know, little opportunities that he got to play off the bounce, that I think his game off the bounce is just way more developed than what Trey Johnson's is in terms of like getting downhill, getting to the basket. I'll look up Devin's numbers at Kentucky while we're talking, but I would bet you that like it's probably not that far off in terms of rim attempts, despite the fact that he played like half as much at Kentucky as what Trey Johnson gets at Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thing is, and this is where like what people value and what a team values and what a team needs and what they're willing to give him is like, obviously, if you can get Devin Booker, like your Trey Johnson deserves to go higher than this, but it's like, what are the chances he actually hits Devin Booker level outcomes?
Yeah.
And then if he's like 70% of Devin Booker, what is that? Right? Like, what does maybe that still is more valuable than I'm giving it credit for if it's in the right role.
I think I'm remembering Devin at Kentucky wrong, because Devin only took 11 field goal attempts at the rim in half court settings at Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
And he took 2 floaters, which is fucking insane. So like, I mean, maybe that is the like prayer here, but I just think Devin's game was way more developed and like smoother than what Trey's is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I watched the game last night, and I don't know that anybody can get hotter and get buckets in bunches better
Totally.
in college basketball. I mean, I wrote it down watching the game last night, and he does have soft touch and all of that. I like the shot making. I also wonder, and this is probably not fair to him, but I don't know Trey Johnson at all. I also wonder sometimes, like, okay, you take Trey Johnson, who gets all of the freedom offensively at Texas, right? Like, can shoot any shot he wants. If that's not the role in the NBA, what does it look like? Like, what are the catch and shoot numbers going to look like if he's not getting like all of these on ball? What is it going to look like if he's only getting 7 attempts a game instead of 16? Like, does that affect things for him in terms of efficiency even more? I know, like, maybe not, but I worry about that a little bit if he's trying to play like the third option with this type of shot diet.
So I brought up the name Cam Thomas earlier.
Yeah.
Right. The game is very similar.
I would agree.
Like the style of play of Trey Johnson at Texas and Cam Thomas at LSU is quite similar. Like they both had like some interesting veteran, college players next to them, and they just went and fired from 3 and fired from the mid range and like kind of tried to make their game work. Didn't get a lot of rim pressure, right? I think Cam's game off the bounce was just more developed. And like we've seen how this has gone with Cam, like it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for him to get the opportunities that his skill set like says he should, but it's just because the style of play is very difficult to make work in the NBA. Like you have to be Devin Booker basically. And by the way, do you know Devin Booker became Devin Booker? Devin Booker became there might not be a more underrated passer in the NBA right now than Devin Booker.
And so in fairness to Trey, Booker has improved drastically throughout his career. And so obviously if Trey improved, but this is one thing I think we've learned with these guys. I know I would love to look it up, but like you got to be able to pass if you're going to be the primary guy for your team.
Yes.
Like it just straight up, if you only go get buckets, you're not going to be valued in the same way.
And maybe that's what we're underrating. Maybe it's the role at Texas does not allow Trey Johnson to flourish quite as well as a passer is what his talent level actually possesses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that is it.
So
I don't know, man. It's hard.
I underlined this last night. Has made a couple interesting drives and creations for teammates. I want to see how it is. But I also wrote his passing or not might be the X factor for his ceiling. And I think that's where we've worked to is.
Yeah.
And again, maybe this will be a lesson learned, even
the passing is the X factor.
Yeah. And maybe, even this many years into it, Sam, as great at this as you are, like you're still learning stuff every year, I assume. And I know for me, I'm learning every year. Maybe we'll have to go back and look at the Trey Johnson passing film and figure out what was missed. Because if that hits,
forget that. Like I'm doing that this week.
Yeah.
Now.
So yeah, it'll be interesting if you come back. I mean, I've watched enough to feel like I know, but maybe there's something I'm missing right now, which would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It just feels harder for Trey than it should be, I guess.
Sure.
Okay. You are up now with the Atlanta Hawks at number 13. This
So
is
this is a
Sacramento's pick. I was like, how the hell does Atlanta have this pick? But this is the Sacramento pick. Okay.
So this is one where I actually think the next guy on my board, plus like I just think this is what this team is building and this player makes sense. It's also a player I'm way higher on than others, and I'm just cool with it. I'm gonna take Rasheer Fleming here. I think Rasheer Fleming is really, really good. Rasheer Fleming is averaging 13, 8.5 in conference play, shooting 47% from three. He's shooting 43% from three on 4 attempts on the season. He is athletic. He is long. I hate doing this. I think that team is kind of a disaster. Like he is like, there's times where Rasheer Fleming is.
No, they're a total disaster. We
Okay.
can just say that they're the most talented team in the Atlantic 10.
Agreed.
Like there's no argument. You talk to coaches in the A10, and I do regularly now because of this. They will tell you like this should be the best team in the A10 talent wise, and they're just not.
Yeah. And so like I think he's putting up really good numbers and having an impact in spite of a lot of that. And I buy the shooting. He's got other areas to grow. Like there's definitely like just like the shooting plus the physical tools is what puts him here. He's got to work on his closeouts. He jump stop closeouts a little too much for me, but he can be impactful defensively as like a low man rotator, those type of things. He shows some passing things, but it's got to get better. Like the handle's got to get better to be this advantage exploiter that attacks closeouts and those type of things. I'm just buying those things, the improvement. And I know people like question the mechanics of the jumper to me. I buy it enough with how much he's made shots. And also, I just think he makes sense for Atlanta. Like you add another one of these wing 3-and-D type of guys, which it seems like they've really wanted to prioritize around Trey and then whatever they do at center. So I think that all makes sense here.
Yeah, I mean, they love guys that are super long, super athletic, and can defend and shoot around Trey Young. This is a fit here at the very least. I will say that. I actually like him as a blend kind of with all of these players, right?
Yeah.
Like I like him because he's a little bit more physical than these guys outside of Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's super physical, but like as like the 3-and-D guys, like the Rissa Sheas, the Dyson Danielses, the, you know, all of those other players. Now they've traded DeAndre Hunter as well. They're probably looking for another one. Like it does fit to me. This works for me for them. I don't know how enthused I would be about taking him in the lottery, just because he is somebody that when I watch him, I'm like, okay, I need you to process things a little bit quicker on the court. I need you to see what's happening a little bit quicker. Yeah, it's tricky. It's a little hard.
No, I mean, like I said, I think Serif and Fleming, I think are guys that I'm a little bit bullish on. And I just know I'm going to be higher on than the consensus. And in year 2 of really doing this, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to kind of trust my eyes, trust what I believe, and I'll learn my lessons from that. I would say they're the two that I'm probably the most like above consensus in terms of where I have them. And right now I'm just comfortable with that. So I understand. Like
your tools bet here.
Yeah, I understand that like most people are like, hey, Rasheer Fleming should be available for our team in the second round. Like I get it. My thing is, yes, there's a lot of tools. He's also shooting over 40% from three on this in season. So like he's raised the floor, in my opinion, in terms of like his ability to do that, along with the rebounding and some of the defensive playmaking, where I'm more comfortable taking this in the lottery because of that.
Well, and with Rasheer as well, it's worth noting, like trajectory here is important.
Sure.
You know, barely played at Camden High School because he was behind like a loaded team. That was like Aaron Bradshaw as 5-star. And that wasn't DJ Wagner, was it? Who else was on
that would have been a year earlier, I think.
Yeah, but like like a loaded team. You know what I mean? And to me, it's important that like he continues to go on this like upward trajectory slope where it's, yes, I'm typically worried about the processing. I'm worried about like things like that, but he doesn't have like as much experience as some of these guys, and the tools are fucking outrageous.
Yeah.
Like 6'9", 7'4" wingspan, 240, physical, strong, powerful. Like I get why somebody would take the shot here. I do.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Number 14, the Miami Heat are up again because they have Golden State's pick this year after the Jimmy Butler deal.
There we go.
So,
and I had taken Jace Richardson. So
you have taken Jace Richardson here. They've kind of a weird, goofy roster. I think that more than anything, they should be looking for a wing. But I will say this. I kind of sneaky love the idea of Egor and Tyler Hero.
Okay.
In the backcourt. Just like an unbelievable passer playmaker, but it's not the way that offense works. Like that offense doesn't work where it's like, oh yeah, like we have passers all over the court, right? And like we utilize like one singular offensive force in ball screens constantly. So I don't know if this would be a real fit for Egor, even if I like that combination of player in a way. So really it's like, okay, what kind of wing are we looking for here? Are we trying to find like a physical, aggressive wing? Are we looking for somebody that might be able to play with Ware and Bam?
For what it's worth, like I think I have Neek Clifford's another guy, I guess, that I'm pretty high on. This may be a little too high for him.
I think this is too high for Neek.
But I think he makes a lot of sense in Miami as well. Like I think he's another type of player they would really value and like. But
I have Miles Bird ahead of Neek personally.
There you go. Sure.
I have them both like as first rounders ish, but
yeah.
Not this high to me. Okay. This is like an ultimate trade down spot to me. I mean, it's funny because like I think that the Heat would do really fun things with Derek Queen.
Sure.
But I also kind of think they need like a point probably as well. And you could do like a scoring point kind of guard here. I don't know. Oh, this is hard. So I will say this. I have Nolan Traore like in my top 20.
Same.
And I do think that like his style of play fits them better than Egor. I'm going to go Traore here.
I like it.
This is, again, just too low for Nolan Traore, but like 6'4", 6'3" guard can really, really like be able to get into the paint and score, as well as make decisions and pass. Now, here's the issue. I don't think he's actually efficient at any of this right now is the problem. If you look at the numbers this year, overall, he's shooting 40% from the field, 29% from three. But 5 assists per game. He's averaging 12 points per game. If you look over his recent play, by the way, he has been much better.
Yep.
Had 19 points against Le Mans in a game that was like kind of a fun, like Noah Penda, theoretical show with him, but I think Penda didn't end up playing in that game. Had 20 against Paris recently, had 18 against Borg in a game recently. It does feel like things are getting figured out for Traore. 20 against Galatasaray, 19 against Chalon, 18 against Galatasaray again. Like his last 10 games, it feels like the Traore that we saw coming into the year and we were excited about late last year is the one that we're starting to see more of. I have him ahead of Fears and Phylon still.
I do as well, for what it's worth.
Yeah. But I'm not like quite as high on those guys. I really like the idea of Phylon, but Phylon is just really tailed off in conference play, unfortunately.
And so is Fears, for what it's worth. Like Fears conference numbers aren't, we'll get to him later.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Traore here at 14. Do I feel great about it? I don't. but point guard that's willing to defend, and I think Spo will probably appreciate that. I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen with Terry Rozier here, so they might need like another ball handler in Miami. Passes, reasonable handle, good speed. I'm going to go Traore here.
Yeah. So for me, he's in this range. If you just look at numbers, I have a few guys left in a tier, and I do have Egor higher than him. It sounds like you have Egor higher than him by a little bit at least.
Yes, but I just can't. Like, I don't think it's a fit scheme wise in Miami. It doesn't work quite as well.
And to be quite honest, like Egor hasn't been good enough for that to not be a part of the equation. So listen, I have it bold and underlined in my notes. I think a team should see him as a backup primary initiator for them, and that's a first round pick. And we are now, what pick was that? 14, 15, whatever. Like
we're through 14. The lottery. So let's maybe rehash the lottery here. So number 1, Cooper Flagg to Washington. Number 2, Dylan Harper to Rutgers. Number 3, Ace Bailey to Utah. Number 4, VJ Edgecombe to Charlotte. Number 5, Kasper Siakashonis to Toronto. Number 6, Liam McNeely to Philadelphia. Philadelphia at number 6, man. That's crazy. Common Malawak, number 7 to Brooklyn. Number 8, Chicago takes Colin Murray-Boyles. Number 9, Portland takes Ben Seraph. Number 10, Con Kneppel goes to San Antonio. Number 11, Jace Richardson to Miami. Number 12, Trey Johnson to Houston. Number 13, Rasheer Fleming to Atlanta. Number 14, Nolan Traore to Miami. Okay, Bryce, you're up at number 15 for the San Antonio Spurs again.
And you took Con already, right? Correct?
I did.
I'm going to go ahead and take Asa Newell here. We're out of the lottery now.
That works.
I think this makes sense. Obviously they have Wembanyama, so now you're just looking for someone to come in off the bench with them. Listen, I have concerns offensively. This was a guy that at times I had much, much higher than this, but I'm nervous. Again, there's flashes of shot making. There's flashes of attacking downhill, but it's not enough for me to think any of it's practical or fully buy into it. The defensive playmaking and versatility. Let me ask you this, because it seems like maybe you're a little bit lower on the defense than some. Like, do you think he's impactful defensively at least, or just not the high level of like a CMB or somebody like that?
Yeah, no, I think Colin Murray-Boyles might be the best defender in this class. Like, to me, Asa is a good defender for sure. But I will say this about Asa, like, it's going to be the role that's important here, right? Like, what is the scheme? What are we trying to do defensively? Because, like, I don't love him in drop necessarily.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, that doesn't really work super well for me. So you're going to have to be a little bit more willing to get aggressive defensively.
Yeah.
I think when Asa is on the court, you might want him like playing the 4 almost sometimes with Victor. That's also why this fit really works for me, is that if you think he can play the 4 a little bit with Victor at the 5, or him at the 5 with Victor at the 4, however you want to put it, like, that's a super big athletic rebounding kind of area that I like. It does overlap with Sohan a bit.
Sure. That's fair. Yeah.
But I would do this. This would be my pick too for them.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it was going to be him or Queen, and I have no higher. So.
Yeah. Okay. So as usual, we'll try and move through the non-lottery picks a little bit quicker than what we have so far. Okay. Next up, the Orlando Magic here at number 16. Okay. So obviously they have Jalen Suggs, they have Franz Wagner, they have Paulo. They have the weird center position where they have Goga and Wendell Carter, and then they have like Mo Wagner. So like, I don't think Derek Queen is in the mix here.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's tough there.
Already have Mo Wagner. You've already just taken like a big guard in Anthony Black.
Just add another guy that can't. Add another one that can't shoot. Let's do it. They seem to love it. Neither of those guys make sense. To be clear, Queen and Egor are the 2 next players on my board, and I don't think either makes sense here. Like, I would have, if I was you, I would have to be breaking my tiers for this pick, because That's tough.
I don't think they can do it.
I don't think so
Honestly.
either, to be.
I'm gonna take Hugo Gonzalez here.
Okay.
So Hugo Gonzalez, it's been like a bit of a struggle this year for him to get like real time over in Europe, just because he plays for Real, and Real is, you know, one of the best teams in Europe, right? But in the games where he has played, and lucky enough for him, like a few of the games where he has played this year or recently, like substantially, were also games where NBA teams were over there, and that was worked out, I'm sure, between folks ahead of time, right? If all those NBA folks are going to be there, let's make sure he plays. So had 11 points against Effie's recently, started against Hoventoot, like had, you know, 2 points, was not incredible in that game necessarily. But like had another game against CB Corona where he played 29 minutes and was like fairly effective. I felt like in that game he had 8 and 4 and played really good defense. The thing that Hugo does is that he just plays with an incredible motor.
Mm-hmm.
And for this team particularly, that focuses so much on defense, that focuses so much on aggression, energy, everything, I think that that's probably more what they value. So people ask like, yeah, so many non-shooters being taken by teams that need shooters. Do you know why those teams why they end up in these circumstances where they, you know, have a lot of non-shooters on their team? It's because they take non-shooters. Like, that's what those front offices tend to value. They tend to value that they can fix the shooting a little bit more, right? That they tend to be able to value that, oh no, we can make this work. Like, we'll figure this out as he goes to be 20 years old, 21 years old. That tends to be how that happens. Every front office has preferences, right? One of Orlando's has clearly been that they just don't care as much about shooting. Hugo's an awesome defender. He's super energetic, super active, aggressive. I think that, you know, I think this one just fits for me. I'd rather take him with their later pick, but like, I think that he fits here as well, because if there is one thing that they could use beyond like a playmaking guard, which I guess you could take Fears here, but I don't know. I'm not a Jeremiah Fears guy in general.
Also can't shoot. Like,
also not a shooter. Yeah, that's the thing.
To the comment, which I appreciate and I understand, it's not a us thing. It's a how many real floor spacers are there in the draft? Like, I literally said this earlier today to somebody. For a league that values floor spacing and shooting, I don't think those type of players are getting produced at the rate to keep up with it the way you would think.
100%.
It was an issue last year with all of these guys we talked about. And you could, well, just pick all the guys that shoot it the best, then have other flaws. And so it's like, do you take the guy that can really shoot, but is not that athletic or can't defend or doesn't process or whatever, or doesn't play hard? Well, okay, well, which one of these things do you feel like you can develop as an organization? So I understand the comment. Like, I get it. But like, if you look through the list of players who, like, does Queen space the floor? Does Egor? Does Neat Clifford has shooting concerns? Noah Essengay, shooting concerns. Danny Wolf, the form is really funny. Phylon, Fear, like all of these guys have shooting questions. So
yeah, like Noah Penda has shooting questions.
Sorry, I skipped over him. I don't know why, but yeah, he should have been right in the middle of the names I was listing off.
Yeah, no, there's just a lot of dudes that really, really, really do not shoot necessarily in this class. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's very, very hard. Okay, I went Hugo Gonzalez for Orlando. Who are you taking for Minnesota at number, what is this, 17?
I'm gonna take Derek Queen here.
So to my point on certain front offices have a type, I mean, Tim Connolly would look at he would not give a fuck that he has Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid. He would just be like, yeah, I'm taking this guy because I love him. If he likes him. I don't know if Tim likes Queen particularly or not, but like,
so my thing is,
he would have no problem doing this.
I think Julius Randle is off the team next year in whatever capacity, like however it happens. like I don't know what they're gonna do the rest of this year because I feel like Naz Reid in the starting lineup has made a lot of sense. So like my world is Naz Reid is the starting 4 next to Rudy next year, and then you slide Derek Queen into this role. It doesn't make as much sense as like the Cat Naz Reid archetype, right? Because Derek Queen's not that type of floor spacer, and this may go south because I feel like Derek Queen kind of operates in that mid-range area where Ant has not liked Julius Randle operating in that area. But I couldn't help myself, and he is the best player on my board right now. So I'll be honest, Sam. Derek Queen is my hardest evaluation right now. Like I really, really struggle with what I think and how I think it projects. So
I did a lot of his draft guide profile last week. Not all of it. Like these are not finalized by any stretch of the imagination, but like, so not an explosive player. I don't think he's a bad athlete because he's an unbelievably coordinated player, but like below average in terms of run and jump, right? Maryland, when you watch them, like they do everything to keep him out of actions defensively. Like they are pre-switching, they are making sure that like Queen is staying in the paint as much as he can. And for what it's worth, like he has to call out all this out. He's really good at communicating all of this stuff on the back line. I do want to give him credit for that. But like they play him in a super deep drop, and that's not going to work in the NBA because he's not big enough or long enough to take up that kind of space there. I don't think he cuts off angles. What I think that where Queen is interesting athletically to me is I think he actually moves okay side to side on defense. It's when he has to get north-south at all is when the problems start to come. Like if he has to close out on somebody, he's really, really bad at scrambling. Like he is a really, really bad scramble defender, having to like get out onto a shooter, stop, drop his hips, close out, or drop his hips and like be able to like get his chest back in front of you defensively. But if he's like in a switch and is on like a wing or something, I think that as long as that wing isn't like full scale dancing him and like in like full space, I do feel like he can slide and like cut off a little bit reasonably well on defense. It's interesting watching him defend. The thing that drives me craziest with him though, he is the king this year of if he's supposed to be the help weak side rim protector, just letting the guy go. He's just going to let him go. Like he's not going to try and contest the shot. Maybe that's Maryland telling him, hey, we need you, don't foul. Or it's him just making like a business decision not to get done. Like, I don't know what it is, but I would love to see Derek Queen consistently be like a rotational presence on the weak side. His defense is bad right now. It's okay to say it. Like he's, Brian says in the comments here, like he's been impressive on both ends lately. No, he hasn't. That's not true. He just has not been. But he has been a really good offensive player. He was amazing in the game. What was it? Was it against? Shit, I'm gonna have to look it up. It's driving me crazy that I forget this because I took a shit ton of notes on it. He was amazing in the game against Rutgers where he had 29 and like 15 and 5 assists, and like he was slicing and dicing dudes. Like he was so good on the offensive end in that game. He had like I think like 15 points in the last 8 minutes, but the defense is a worry here, and he's not a shooter, right?
Yeah. It's funny because I have a lot of the same notes defensively. Gets cooked on a closeout here versus Oregon, holds up better when he's there and set. Switchability continues to be a mixed bag. Great possession versus Ace Bailey, and then also I had highlighted the very good, defensive communication. So just again, it's a really interesting player because it's like I see all of the positives. I see the passing and the fun stuff with the skill set offensively, and some of the things he does defensively. How does that get valued and how does it work into an NBA floor is what is fascinating to me.
Yeah. But you know what, though, here's the thing with Derek Queen. Like we just focused a lot on the negatives, right? And I'm okay taking a decent amount of time on Queen because he's a super interesting player. He's averaging 16 and 9. You look at any of the like advanced numbers in terms of what he's doing. Like he's top 15 in the country among freshmen in BPM in conference play, shoots 54% from the field, like consistently an awesome offensive rebounder. He has really good hands on defense. I will say that too. I think his hand-eye coordination is really, really good on defense, but it's all about like what you think the role is on defense. He's going to score and be productive. Like he's going to be an effective NBA offensive player. I actually genuinely have like no doubts that he's going to be an effective NBA offensive player.
Yeah.
But is he going to be able to stop as much, or is he going to give back everything that he scores on offense is the question.
Sure.
Okay. Number 18, I'm up with the Dallas Mavericks. Let's go with another big Eastern European guard.
This is amazing.
Egor Demin. So
Yep.
I was really excited about Egor early in the season. I mean, like I thought that the shooting had figured itself out a little bit, and it just like absolutely has not in any way, shape, or form. He just isn't a shooter yet, and it's so annoying because I loved the early season tape, but everything about him in Real, if you remember, I was super low on him comparatively to everybody else in the preseason. So I was like, how does he score?
I remember our very first one. I think I took him late lottery, and you're like, Bryce, this is too high. I mean, you were.
And then he was amazing to start the year. He was incredible. He was so good. And the question is here, like now the teams have figured it out. How does he score?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't think he knows the answer to that yet, unfortunately. He's going to have to shoot it, but he's shooting 66% from the line right now. He's been better recently. He had 16 against Arizona. He had 12 against Cincinnati. He had 16 against West Virginia in a road win, which was actually really quite good. The assist numbers, like he's averaging 5.5 assists per game. Man, he's to me the best passer in this draft. I truly just don't care about that. Like the number of assists that BYU blows for him every game is just so maddening. He is an unbelievable passer playmaker. But again, like the real question is, how does he score? And that is an answer I don't have yet on Egor. And it's the answer that teams will be looking for. He has an exceptionally wide draft range right now. There are teams that have picks very high in the lottery that I've talked to who are absolutely still looking at him because they see, oh my God, like big guard who is 6'8", 6'9". We can stay big out there. He's an unbelievable passer playmaker. We'll see if we can teach him to shoot. And then there are people who are just like, no, like he can't score. What is the idea here? What is the goal here? So it's all over the map. It's truly all over the map. Look, he's going to settle in. My guess is like somewhere in the 10 to 22 range, but that's where I'm at here.
Yeah, no, it's tough because whenever he was making shots and he was really playing, it was really exciting and he was easily a top 10 pick at that time. And then it just has not progressed. It's really fallen off, and it's tough. And I feel bad for him, but we'll see. Still has some games left to figure it out and see if he can kind of bring that back. So,
okay, number 19, you're up with the Brooklyn Nets, Bryce.
I took Common earlier. I kind of have some wings right now up next. I'm trying to decide if I should do that or go upside with like a primary creator type player that they could definitely use. I think that is what they would do. I have this player lower. I think you're going to hate this player going there because it would put a lot of pressure on him right away. And he hasn't been as good. I'm going to go Jeremiah Fears is who I'm going to take for them. Can really, really pressure the rim. We've talked about this with him. The shooting, as we've talked about with a lot, has been a concern. Conference play, I think, is what has concerned me the most. And this is something I've talked about. He's under 40% from the field. 3-point percentage hasn't been good. Negative assist to turnover ratio. But for the Nets in this spot where they can afford to do this, I think I would go ahead and take a swing here. So I will go Jeremiah Fears, I guess.
So over Fears' last 10 games, 11.6 points, 4.2 rebounds, 3.1 assists versus 3.7 turnovers, 35, 19, 86. Those are bad numbers. What do you think Jeremiah Fears' BPM is in conference play right now?
2.1.
Negative 1.5.
I wondered if it was going to be negative.
Yeah, it's quite bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, real worries here.
Yeah.
real concerns right now with Jeremiah Fears. I have him lower than this. I'm not a Jeremiah Fears guy.
Yeah. To be clear, I have him multiple spots lower than this.
I have him as and I said this from the jump of the Jeremiah Fears hype train. I have him as this person should consider going back to school guy.
No, and that's why, like, I don't think this ends up. My guess is Fears ends up, based on the trajectory right now. My guess is he doesn't end up in the draft. This for me was, I have him 25th on my board. To be clear, and I definitely have some wings and stuff that I like more. I just think if he's in the draft and Brooklyn is sitting here, I could see them going, let's go ahead and take this and see what we can get, and maybe we can get the upside out of it. So,
yep, fair enough. Okay, number 20, Utah Jazz. I will just take Noah Essengay here. This is pure talent swing. Again, one of the 3 or 4 youngest players in this draft class, playing over in Ulm with Ben Seraph. Averaging, as I pull up the numbers here, 10 points, 5 rebounds, shooting 51, 24, 70 so far this year. This is purely a player that is a project to me. Every time I've watched him, I've just been like, okay, like the idea here is that people think he can really move defensively, but I'm not quite there yet. I do think that he's athletic enough to be able to figure it out. I don't really buy the jump shot quite as much as I would like to, but he's been much better recently. Over his last 6 games, he's been in double figures 5 times, 19 against Budućnost, 10 against, I think, Bonn, 13 against another Turkish team that I don't actually know. That's interesting. 11 against Riesen, and then 12 against Göttingen. Look, he's like 6'9" or so, real athlete, moves well. I am a little bit lower on him than what I think some people are, but in general, I do like the swing, somewhere 20 to 40 for Essengay.
Yeah, this is, all of these guys have been in this tier for me. The defensive, playmaking is interesting. Another guy with real shooting concerns. Not sure where that's going to land, but I feel like I'm a little bit lower than most too. Like I see like lottery stuff for Essengay at times, which I'm not really sure I have. So
I'm just kind of done questioning anybody going in the lottery of this class because we need to fill 14 spots.
That's fair.
Bryce, you're up at 20th, 21.
So with the Pacers, so my question here is, do I go wing or do I go ahead and get a backup big, since that's where they don't have any? I'm assuming
Miles Turner's a free agent, so like it might be a starting big too.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and take Thomas Sorber here. A guy that was getting some lottery buzz. Not quite the same stuff now, but has defensive upside. I love the way he contests with both hands, contests with verticality, contests just a lot of shots in general. I think he has really good hands in ball screen situations, very active, can move a little bit. I'll be honest, like, I'm interested to see what you think. I'm a little more like, I'm not sure what the offensive role ends up being, Sam. Like, I think I have more concerns there. I think Thomas Sorber can really pass. I'm not sure. Yeah. And I think offensive rebound, I'm not sure what the scoring is in terms of like he's not this uber athlete type of player, but a freshman that's been very, very productive, playing 30 plus minutes a night. I think that's meaningful for a big that he's able to play that much. I just wonder, like, does he have the touch enough to be like this really, really good short roll scorer? Because I think he can be the passer, but I don't think he's like a lob threat. I'm not sure what he's going to be like. Like, do you buy the shooting? So I guess I have some offensive concerns with Sorber.
I also have those same concerns as a scorer. I think at some point he's probably gonna have to shoot it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But rebounds well, passes super well. Like every time I watch him, I'm just like, this is the skill here.
Yeah.
The vision, the playmaking, the passing. Awesome. Going to be an awesome short roll threat, which by the way is exactly what Indiana needs with Tyrese Halliburton. Like they need somebody who can handle those short roll situations when Halliburton just has to hit somebody right at the top of the key there, because teams blitz him all the time, right? This is an amazing, amazing fit to me. I think he moves well away from the rim. And there's also some real upside here as well in terms of his frame. He's a guy that's lost a bunch of weight and continues to get into better and better shape. I have him and Derek Queen very close. They're very different players outside of the passing. I think Queen is obviously more gifted offensively, but I think Sorber has way, way better shot defensively to be effective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think he's a very good defender. And I do think adding strength will be important for him, and he'll be even more effective when he gets that. So,
yeah. Again, another guy I'm wildly interested to find out if he's going to come out of this, come out or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause he's one of these freshmen that could go either way from what I understand. So,
yeah.
Okay. Number 22, I'm up. The Oklahoma City Thunder. This is beautiful, beautiful stuff here. I just get to take one of these glorious, like long athletic wings that the Oklahoma City Thunder just like truly love. And oh man, what do I do here? Do I take Nick Clifford? Do I take Carter Bryant? Do I take Miles Bird? This is hard. This is hard. Okay. I'm not convinced Carter Bryant is going to be in this class. Man, I don't know. Does Carter Bryant fit them?
You have Pinda on the board still too. I know he's not there for this ranking, but
yeah, I'm aware. I still have Pinda there. That could be an interesting one too. The more I watch Penda, the more I'm like not totally sure what to do with him yet. I was really, really excited and then got like a little bit less enthused the more I like really, really dug in. He's definitely a first round guy for me, but like him versus like Miles Bird here is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, let's have the Carter Bryant discussion. Let's talk Carter Bryant. Okay. So I think the way that Tommy Lloyd and Arizona and those guys have utilized Carter Bryant is somewhat maddening to NBA people as well as Arizona fans. The good news is that like he's playing more now, which is exciting for all of us. He's averaging 8 points in their last 8 games, playing 23 minutes a night, shooting 44, 36, 80. He's averaging 2 blocks and a steal in 23 minutes per game. And they've utilized him as like a super high leverage, like high impact defender, which I also love because I think that is where he can like really, really thrive. The final thing I want to note here about him, he's like 6'8" and, is long and athletic and knows how to play and he's competitive and all that stuff, right? Among the top 9 guys in their rotation, right? Really, let's say 8. Among the top 8 guys in their rotation, because Moda Yunus, Krivas here, a guy that we were excited about, just like doesn't qualify because he hasn't played enough minutes. Yeah. So the 8 guys in their rotation: Jaden Bradley, Caleb Love, KJ Lewis, Trey Townsend, Toby Awaka, Anthony Del Orso, Henri Vesar, and Carter Bryant. They are 19 points per 100 possessions better when Carter Bryant is on the court. They are 24 points per 100 possessions better when Henri Vesar is on the court. Do you know what the next two closest look like in terms of like on-off differential?
What was the most recent one? Like, what was the number you just?
18.
8.
It is 1.8.
Wow.
So they are drastically better with Carter Bryant and Vesar on the court. It's like somewhat mind-boggling to me that they didn't start Carter against Houston over the weekend, but they started him against Kansas State and against Texas Tech. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that they haven't gone to like those two guys just on a more consistent basis. Like Vesar has not started a game yet this year, and he is very, very, very clearly their best big man.
Yeah, he's good.
It blows my mind that they don't play him as much as they should realistically. So I say all this to say, I don't know what the fuck's going on in Arizona. It feels very beholden to like Caleb Love, and they do need his scoring. You kind of just have to rock with the ups and downs, right? I don't know, man. Carter's interesting though. I'm a big Carter Bryant fan from what I've seen this year, and I had some questions coming into the year, but the way that he has attacked this role and said, I am going to play the guys who are, or in order for me to play, I have to be able to make an impact on defense. I have to be able to do 4 or 5 different things and not just be like a mismatch creator scorer, which is kind of what he was in high school. I actually really respect the way Carter Bryant has gone about it this year, and I hope that they keep playing him more because it is very clear to me that he helps them when he's on the court. Like he is better than Toby Awaka. He is better than, you know, like the Trey Townsend thing is like making me lose my mind. I have no idea why they play Trey Townsend as much as they play Trey Townsend.
Yeah. He was not a player I was super high on coming in either. The more I've watched him at Arizona, similar to you, the more I appreciate it. His size always stands out to me when I turn on an Arizona game.
Big, man.
Yeah. I think he like can be a forward type of play. Like he can. So I'm more intrigued than I thought it was going to be. He's finding ways to impact the game with his rebounding. You mentioned the defensive disruption. I think he can shoot. I think the jumper form looks good. I wonder what else he does offensively. I think he passes it a little bit. I'm a little lower on the defense in terms of like, does he hold up at the point of attack?
Yeah.
I
agree with that for what it's
like,
worth.
I think he doesn't drop his hips very well. And listen, he's way better than this person was defensively. But we had these concerns about Dalton Connect not being able to drop his hips, or at least not ever doing it. With Carter, it may just be like, hey, he's still young. Maybe he hasn't developed the flexibility yet. Maybe it's a strength thing. Like, I'm not saying it's gonna stay as bad as what like Dalton was, because Dalton was 5-6 years older. That is my concern defensively. But he is disruptive and engaged, and he rebounds and all of those things. If somebody could tell me like, hey, we're working on his flexibility, it's going to get there, and then that'll be better, I would be even more intrigued with what he has defensively. But you're right. Like, he's embraced this role and he finds ways to be impactful. He's risen up my board over the last few weeks, to be clear. Like, he was a guy I'd almost like, as a freshman, I put him in that bucket. Like, I'm just going to keep eyes on just in case. And now he's in my potential first round pick tier like this. So
totally with you. Okay. Number 23, you're up.
And this is the Hawks again, right? I'm just going to continue.
Yep.
I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to give him Nick Clifford. Nick Clifford's the best player on my board. I realized I took Rasheer Fleming earlier. I don't care. Like, I think they continue to add these type of players. I like Nick Clifford. I know he does like a lot of like on ball primary creator stuff, but I think the biggest question is going to be the shooting. Does he knock down shot? I think he can play off the ball though. Like I think Neat Clifford absolutely understands cutting, movement, spacing, relocations, like all of that stuff. And if he knocks down catch and shoots, then this is a really good guy to then attack closeouts because he can manipulate and read defenses because of all of the stuff he's done on the ball. And so I think in this range, this is just a really good player to add to your team.
I like Neat Clifford. I've never been able to like totally fall in love with him.
Sure. It's fair.
I like the defense. I like how aggressive and
Yeah.
tough and physical he is on defense. I like the way he processes the game on defense. I just don't know what the offensive role is what it comes down to. I know that he moves well without the ball, but like, what does he do from a skill perspective that keeps teams honest, I guess, is kind of my thing.
Yeah. No, it's fair. I just, especially at this point, I'm going to buy into a guy who I feel like understands all of that stuff, processes the game well. I think he can really, really pass. And I think as an off the ball player, he's like a plus passer. And so it's like, if the shooting really is broken down and doesn't work, then it probably, this probably falls apart. If it does, I think you have an incredible, like, two-way defender, off-ball player, on-ball, offensive play. Like, I just think it can really, really work in a role, an archetype. He just has to be able to do it. And I think at 23, I'm willing to bet on that.
Yeah, like he's someone I've been comparing a lot to Alex Caravan recently, and I think I have hit the point where I do like him more than Caravan.
Yep. I don't have them super separated, but I would agree.
Okay, Brooklyn Nets are up now. You have taken Malawak and Fears for them. I mean, look, they're just talent hunting at a certain point. Let's go on ahead and give them Noah Penda.
Okay.
I think. Let's go Noah Penda. Kind of a big bear of a basketball player. 6'8", 6'7", 230-ish pounds, let's call it. Big, physical, strong, high-level defender, processes it well on that end. But I will say, whereas before I thought he might be able to hang his hat on defense, I'm not as convinced of that now, the more I dug in.
Yeah.
Really good passer, processes it well on offense, moves well without the ball. I think he'll shoot it, is why I like him and why I have him as a first-round grade. I think that he will knock down shots from distance at a pretty high level. Maybe not like at crazy volume, but I think he will be able to shoot. The fact that like he's already taking and making some no-dip threes, like I've seen him make 2 of them now.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, like there's something here very clearly where there's like, it's worth developing and buying into. Had 15 points last week against Chalon. This is a game that I watched. He was really, really terrific. I thought he drilled 3 threes in that game, had 5 rebounds and 3 assists. I thought he impacted the game kind of across the board. And then had 13 against Nanterre, had 8 rebounds, got to the line a ton, 3 assists. Again, you just see the passing and playmaking just like continue to pop, in my opinion, just by continuing to make these really quick reads. It looks ugly. I get it. Like it does not look functional. I think he's just like kind of the epitome of a guy that makes it work in spite of the lack of like aesthetics out there.
Yeah, no, he's a really fun player. These are actually like the archetypes of players I really like, just like this build and then the skill level. Honestly, where you've landed on the defense makes me feel better about my evaluation of the defense, because I was a little bit lower in terms of like just this being an incredible impact, right? Like I didn't think he was like a bad defender, but I didn't think it was like this overwhelmingly positive defender. So that's kind of where I've landed with his defense also. Okay.
You're up now. Orlando Magic, number 24, 25.
25. I have odds. I just want to have this conversation and I just think it would be like interesting to add this type of player.
Do not take Danny Wolf for the love of God.
I am taking Danny Wolf here for the Orlando Magic.
Or you're actually serious about this?
This is what we're doing. I want to hear I want to have the
They
conversation.
They have Mo Wagner, Wendell Carter, and Goga, and you're taking Danny Wolf.
They can't keep those guys forever. Don't forget Jonathan Isaac too. That was disrespectful to Jonathan Isaac.
They're all under contract for next year too.
They have to
Except
trade
for
them
Mo,
at some.
like,
They have
do you
to
think
trade
Mo's
those guys.
getting cut?
Mo is not getting traded. I feel pretty confident that Mo's not getting traded. Goga and Wendell, like eventually they're gonna trade those guys. Do you think Danny plays center in the NBA though?
Yes, I don't think he can guard for us. He'll play center in the same way that Wagner does.
Listen, he's really interesting though. What do you just think about him as a player?
So I love bigs who can run actions. Like,
yeah,
he can genuinely like be a ball handler, running side ball screens and like making reads. I freaking love the way that he like sees the court. And I think his passing and playmaking is unbelievable. Do you think he maintains advantages if he can't shoot?
No.
Do you think he has any chance on defense?
I think he's a really good cutter, and really good cutters are fun on the Magic.
It's not wrong. Truly, like that's actually an important thing here. They need to, if you're Orlando and you are building around this like Franz Paulo hybrid is like your lead ball handlers with Jalen, right? You're probably never going to have like truly elite floor spacing. So you need to manufacture it somehow. And like one way to manufacture it is having a 5-out center like Danny Wolf, who, even though he can't shoot, cuts super well, can play actions, can do different, you can run different sets for him and play with him. Do you think there's any way Jamal Mosley would play him on defense?
Probably not. To be clear, he has a better chance of shooting it than a lot of guys we've talked about, though. Like, he does make threes, at least. Like, I feel like other guys, the mechanics are funky, but in conference play, he's knocking down over 40% on 3 attempts.
I think he has some touch. The mechanics are so funky that it's hard for me to get past it.
Here was my thing. He is such an interesting skill set.
Yeah, I agree.
And he can really pass and process the game. He can really cut. And I'm just like, just throw it into the mix with all of these other guys in Orlando and figure it out. Like, and if they're, the defensive end is a fair point, right? Like that's where it probably breaks down in Orlando. To me, that's where it breaks down more than on the offensive end in Orlando.
Yeah. That's what I would worry about, is purely the defensive end.
Yeah.
Someone asked, like, you trust Noah Penda's mechanics, but you don't trust Danny Wolf's. I think Noah Penda's mechanics look way better than Danny Wolf's.
Danny Wolf had the mechanics are pretty rough.
They're just funky more than anything. And like, I don't know if like I think that it's going to be easier for like a shooting coach to like sit down with Noah Penda and be like, okay, this is what we need to do to like play with your shot. Right. But with Danny, like, you're almost going to have to like
move it back, Lonzo it, right?
Yeah. Like you have to do some like funky stuff to it. I feel like, I don't know. Like he might not have to shoot to be a good NBA player, to be clear. That's the thing. Like he actually might not have to. He might be good enough to just kind of make it work without the jumper. He is that interesting to me as a player. Someone asked for the free throw percentages on Penda versus Danny Wolf. Noah Penda shooting 71% from the free throw line this year. Danny Wolf is shooting 62% from the line this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is better, Luka Garza or Danny Wolf? I think that as college players, Luka was very clearly better because he was just more physically dominant than anybody. As NBA players, I like Danny more because I think it's easier to be able to kind of make it work running him off of actions and being able to play like 5-out, whereas I don't think Luka can play quite as 5-out.
Like, Danny Wolf doesn't move any worse than Luka Garza.
No, I agree with that.
And
yeah.
the like the idea, the overall offensive skill set is better. And I've watched a lot of Luka Garza, and those feet are very, very heavy. As much as I love Luka Garza. So yeah, I think Danny Wolf has a better chance. I'm not saying he will, but I think he has a better chance than Luka Garza.
Is like Naz Reid not as good of a shooter? Is that your idea here?
Yeah, maybe.
Something like that. Okay. Let's move
yeah,
on.
that's enough Danny Wolf.
Okay. The Washington Wizards here. We've taken Cooper Flagg for them already. Let's take the player he's competing with for National Player of the Year.
Okay.
And take Janai Broom.
Love it.
Janai Broom's one of my favorites in this class. I had a top 40 on him last year. I have a top 30 on him this year. They need a center now that they've moved Jonas Valanciunas. They need another big body, especially somebody who has potential to be able to play with Alex Sarr. Janai is interesting insofar as like has a 5-out game that Auburn often doesn't necessarily have to utilize because he's so big and so good on the interior. I think that he has a chance to shoot it at some point. They use him a lot as like in like these post situations and everything, but we've seen him be able to like step away from the basket and occasionally knock down threes. Over the last 2 years, he's at like 33% from three on 2.5 attempts per game. Rebounds the hell out of the ball. He's averaging 17 and 10 over the last 2 years. This year he's at 18 and 11. Contests at the basket. He's an unbelievable rim protector. He's just an NBA player to me. Like every time I watch him, I'm just like, this is an NBA guy. This works. You're muted.
Sorry, my bad. My kids were yelling. This is exactly where I had him on my board, like literally have him 26. So this makes a lot of sense. It's not going to be the sexiest pick. It's not going to be the one that maybe people get excited about, but I just think Janai Broom is really talented, really impactful, productive, all of those things. And yeah, he's really good. I love it.
Yep. Okay. Number 27, the Brooklyn Nets. I don't even know if this is their last pick, but I know that they, the Nets
So
here have another pick.
Common, Jeremiah Fears, Noah Pinda. Like, there's no way they're adding. I'm going to go Miles Bird here. Just add a guy that active defensively. I think there's a chance he can be really good on that end of the floor.
How good do you think the defense is? Because that's ultimately what like a Miles Bird evaluation comes down to for me. Is do you think he is like a serious defender with how good his hand-eye coordination is? Or do you think he is this is a good defensive basketball player in the NBA?
I think that he has potential to be really, really good. And right now, I think it's still a little bit more potential. Like I watched a game against Boise State and he gave up like egregious off the ball backdoors, like egregious ones. And then he had a third one as well. But then the funny thing is he had some awesome off ball rotations. And so it's like, it's like when you get it all locked in, it could be really, really impactful. So I am not comfortable saying I fully believe in it yet with that.
The more that I watch him, the more that I do think that he could probably use another year.
Sure.
Honestly. The shooting needs another year. I think that the overall attention to detail defensively needs another year. But man, he's so impactful on defense. Like his hands are unbelievable.
Super active defensively, defensive disruption, all of that. Yeah.
He is so disruptive on that end of the court. Again, though, like I do just think the more I watch him, like probably another year. Do I think he has more upside than like Nick Clifford in that same league? I do, honestly. But I kind of think the best thing for him would be like one more season and like continue to improve the overall offensive play.
What do you think? Okay, speaking of the overall offensive play, like I thought it was just a shooter whenever I first started watching
No,
this.
it's not that.
But no, it's
Yeah.
not. Like, I think the handle is loose, but I also think the passing is really interesting. Like, I think he makes really
Yes.
nice passing reads and some of that stuff. And so it's like, to your point, if you go back and like tighten up that handle, now you're like you can secondary creation stuff along with the shooting, prove yourself as like an elite level defender right now, like more practical. And maybe you fly up draft boards if you're able to do that. He's one of those where the 3-point percentage isn't great. He is taking 6 attempts, but the free throw percentage is really good. So I think that helps me buy the shooting a little bit more.
I think he will shoot at some point. I'm not that worried about the jumper.
I do as well.
It's hard to separate him from San Diego State, where San Diego State's like just overall offensive scheme is a clogged toilet in general. And like he has no space to be able to try and like get into the lane and score. Like everyone within that San Diego State like scheme, it's just always really, really hard for them to be efficient, right? Like Nick Boyd is shooting 39%. BJ Davis is shooting 43%. Wayne McKinney, like their other guard, is shooting 39%, right? Magoon Guath, by the way, we've mentioned him on a previous show. Kind of a fun guy.
Good.
Not for this year. Definitely not for this year.
I would guess Magoon Guath ends up on my early first round 2026 big board whenever that time comes.
I might even say 2027 personally.
Sure.
But for people who have not seen San Diego State this year, Magoon Guath, 7 foot, 190 pounds, averaging 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 blocks per game. Starting center as a freshman or soft. It's his first year there. I know that. I just don't know what he's listed at. Real interesting player. Yeah. Really, really interesting player. Probably not for this. Definitely not for this year though.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, their offensive spacing is like just absolutely abysmal. It's hard for them to get paint touches. That gives me like all right, let's like separate the field goal percentage being sub 40 here for a second and just slow down and think about the Miles Byrd eval. I love the disruption. I love the playmaking. I love the passing. I love the processing. I think he'll shoot it. I think he probably is a first round pick either this year or next year. I just don't know which year it is.
Sure.
Okay. Number 28. I'm up. The Boston Celtics. So this is only a player who can shoot. Like, I don't think they will take another player like that doesn't shoot point blank. So I'm just going to take Cam Jones here.
Okay.
And be very happy. Cam Jones has been one of the most productive players in college basketball. I can't imagine him not being an All-American. Like I don't pay attention to like the day-to-day of college basketball anymore, but like Cam Jones makes a ton of sense in my opinion. As a guy that should be an All-American this year. I know he's shooting 32% from 3 this year. He has made 37% of his 800 3-point attempts throughout college. The reason he's shooting 31% this year is because he is so much more on the ball. And that's the reality. Like, it's totally fine. I think he is a little bit more creative than some of the guys they've taken recently, like a Jaden Spring. They didn't take Jaden, but they traded Jaden, traded for Jaden. Baylor Shireman, another guy that like a little bit more creative than Baylor Shireman. He's asked to just do everything for them on offense right now.
Yeah.
He has to do it all. He is an effective finisher at the basket. He's an effective player on the ball. He is a real shooter off the ball. He can play off of movement. He loves to play off dribble handoffs. This is a guy that just makes a lot of sense in their scheme, I think.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the catch and shoot numbers, they're really good. I mean, the thing that's impressed me this year is like, Sam, he has 160 half-court rim attempts this year.
Wild.
And 65% on those. via synergy. So just I'm with you. Like I do think he can shoot it. And so just a really nice guard that can do a little bit of both. And I always have to mention this. He communicates really, really well on the defensive end, very engaged on that end of the floor. I mean, like he is smaller, like not going to be like this crazy point of attack defender, but I also think he like just understands rotations, gets box outs with rotations, those type of things. Maybe that's not valuable enough to matter, but it's just stuff I notice and always really appreciate from a small guard like Cam Jones.
Yep. Okay. You're up at 29. You have the Los Angeles Clippers.
I'm gonna go ahead and take Alex Caravan here. I think
Great.
adding just a wing floor spacer like Caravan makes sense for that roster. This is the definite range that I have Caravan in on my board. I actually even have him a couple spots higher. He can really shoot it. I believe that. I think he's going to knock down shots. I don't know what the numbers are this year, but I think he shoots it really well. And so I think this makes a lot of sense for this spot in the draft. Just floor spacer. Yeah, the numbers are down. He's down at 34% on 6 attempts, but you talk about 500 attempts for his career at 38%, 83% from the free throw line. I worry a little bit like defensively, like where does that end up? Like who does he actually hold up in terms of strength, athleticism, some of those things? I think the strength has shown up better this year. I also think he's a really good processor offensively that's going to keep the ball flowing and all of those type of things. So just a guy you bring off your bench, knocks down shots, keeps the flow going offensively. And then, like I said, I am interested to see where the defense lands.
Okay. Number 30, the Phoenix Suns.
Traded.
Yeah, traded. This pick will not be with the Phoenix Suns. Pick for anybody but the Phoenix Suns.
Pick
here.
any of the 29 teams in the NBA because that's a better chance.
Okay. Let's go with who do I want to take here? I'm down to 2 guys here, and I kind of want to talk about both of them. So we're gonna talk about both of them at some point here. Okay. Let's go with Joan Berenger and just talk about this, right? Because it made a lot of news that John Givony moved up Berenger to the lottery this for this year. I have him lower than this. Like I have him as and we just crashed on the mock draft site, which is a little bit annoying, but whatever. I have Berenger lower than this. I have him like in the 40s right now. But I will tell you guys, a lot of NBA teams just sent folks over to Europe, like, you know, they're number 4 in their front office, and like Euros, like American scouts to go over and like cross-check the opinions of their Euro scouts, right? And just like understanding, you know, where that ecosystem sits right now. And I will say, like, they all came away pretty impressed with Berenger. Like everyone I talked to thought he was really interesting, at least. Just while we're I'll pull up the numbers while we're talking here. 6'11" dude who is like a real athlete at that position. 5 points per game, playing for Ubania and Cedevita, I'm sorry, over in Ubania. He is kind of the profile of what they're looking for. Big, long, athletic, 6'11", 7. Forget what I was told. I'm not gonna say a wingspan measurement because I forget exactly what it was. But every time I've watched him, I've just been like, this is just like so many years away to me. Like
So-
this is not a this year thing to me. This should be a stash if he's doing this.
And to that point, he is only a month older than Cooper Flagg. He's 18 years old.
He's
So like
incredibly young.
he just turned 18 this past November. So just again to that point. So here I'll give my thoughts. I had not watched a lot of him until like it started popping up more and more. It's like, okay, I
So
better.
I will say you just didn't notice him because he was the starting center on the French U18 team from this summer.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not have notes from that on him. So I want to start defensively. Moves well around the perimeter. I assume people are really excited about his movement, switchability, scheme
Yes.
versatility. I feel like his understanding was good, didn't just chase things, was patient. I thought his hips got opened a lot and turned a lot in ball screen coverages, but was absolutely protecting the rim as an off ball rotation guy. I thought offensively, I was like, yeah, twitchy, whatever. We talk about like his hands. I watched 2 games and limited touches overall. He double caught a lob pass and completely whiffed grabbing an offensive rebound. Now, I got to go watch more to in fairness to him. I thought he looked a little uncomfortable and sure just in catch and finish situation. And he, in one of the games I watched, he was getting subbed out offensively and then subbed back in defensively, which speaks to the defensive impact, but I think also speaks to the offensive ability right now at his young age.
Yeah, to me personally, this is a reach. I don't, but I wanted to talk about it more than anything because I know it's in the ether or whatever that this is a thing from earlier this week. I like the idea of this. This is a stash to me. This is like a pure. Don't maybe bring him over, but like if you can bring him over and like not sign him to his first year of his rookie scale deal, that'd be amazing. Pull the Hustis, right? Yeah. If I see him as a second rounder personally, I think he is so far away still from being able to be like an impact guy, but I understand why teams were excited just purely based off of the tools in terms of movement, athleticism, length, kind of everything that he has there. Yeah, I think that that's probably where it's worth closing on.
Yeah, I'll just say like I had just watched him and I did move him to 40 on my board. So I think that speaks to how impressive he was, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm missing out not having him in the first round or lottery. So, yep.
Yeah, no. Okay. Let's run through. Cooper Flagg 1, Dylan Harper 2, Ace Bailey 3, VJ Edgecombe 4, Casper's 5, Liam McNeely 6, Common 7, Colin Murray Boyles 8, Ben Seraph 9, Con Kneppel 10, Jace Richardson 11, Trey Johnson 12, Rasheer Fleming 13, Nolan Traore 14, Austin Newell 15, Hugo Gonzalez 16, Derek Queen 17, Jaeger Demin 18, Jeremiah Fears 19, Noah Essengay 20, Thomas Sorber 21, Carter Bryant 22, Neek Clifford 23, Noah Penda 24, Danny Wolf 25, Janai Broom 26, Miles Bird 27, Cam Jones 28, Caravan 29, Baron J 30. Guys that we left here.
Phylon is probably one of the
Baron
biggest.
Phylon. Yeah. Like I like Phylon more than I like Fears personally. Yeah. But you know, I've got some questions on Phylon as well. So like again, though, I've been saying the whole year, both of these guys should go back to school. And that's kind of still how I feel.
And I will be clear there with both of those guys. I considered Phylon there, and I think it would have been the same thing. Like that was solely like Brooklyn Nets, like one of these young guys stayed in the draft. Let's take a swing.
Sure.
I have both lower than that on my board, and they're trending out of the first round. So just to be clear there. So where are you at on Markovic from Mega?
Productive, but like I just don't know what the role is my issue.
Do you think he can really shoot it though? Like just like as a big that can come over and space the floor?
Maybe, but I'd be more comfortable with it as a second round stash.
Yeah. So he's right there. You know who I can't quit is KJ Lewis, man. I just can't. I can't quit.
I like KJ Lewis too.
Yeah. Not as a first round guy, but as a second round guy.
So here's one name I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Are you in any way in on Braden Smith at Purdue?
If somebody wants to take him in the second round and think that he's the one small guy that figures it out, like, sure.
He's so good, man.
He is. Again,
He's averaging 16, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists per game without like anybody there to help him.
Here's
All
my
due
thing.
respect to like Trey Kaufman-Renn and like CJ Cox and some of those fun guys there, but like
I find it.
Oh man.
I find it hard to just say like, yep, this is the little small guy that I'm gonna bet on. But like, again, like if somebody ends up taking him in the second round, and sure, it's just not. I understand one or two of like every few years one of those guys works. I've yet to have somebody like be able to tell me definitively which ones. And I think a lot of that has to do with intel. Like you have to know how Braden Smith ticks and that he's going to fully accept this role of what he has to be and the toughness and all of that stuff. And I don't have access to those things. So like, he's not a guy I'm probably going to rank, or if we did a 2-round mock that I would take, but like, I understand why people are talking about him for sure.
I mean, Boogie Flan's another guy here that we didn't take. Ian Jackson at North Carolina. I mean, that team's just a train wreck right now. I still love JoJo Tugler at Houston. Every time he play, I mean, that dude is one of the best defenders in college basketball, if not the best defender in college basketball. Kalkbrenner we brought up early.
People are gonna want your thoughts on Will Riley. Do you have thoughts?
He's playing better, but like he still doesn't. My issue with Will Riley is that when Will Riley isn't scoring, he does not impact the game. And I don't think the scoring is consistent enough to like really rely on. I know it's been better for the last like 6 games. I think I just need like maybe I just need a bigger sample, honestly. Like he's been really good during this little run for Illinois where they've had some guys in and out, but he's so skinny.
I want to ask you about one more. I want to ask you, JT Toppin. I'm because I'm at halftime of the big performance. Yeah. Where are you at on Toppin? Just like I know he's had these back-to-back, maybe 3 in a row even, but I know back-to-back like huge performances. Like obviously neither of us have him as a first-round pick, but are you like JT Toppin solid second-round guy? Like don't see it transitioning at all? Like where are your thoughts on?
To me, JT Toppin should go back to Texas Tech and make $2 million next year. Like he will be, if not the most coveted returnee based on like where his draft stock will be, he will be among them, right? Like if he wanted to portal again, he would go find a crazy bag somewhere again. Like, and that's no disrespect to him. I just don't know what the role is in the NBA right now. Just in terms of the motor is unbelievable. Like I know that. I completely buy the motor, but like would you rather have him or Tomislav Ivicic?
Probably Ivicic, just because I can foresee the NBA.
I know what the role is.
Yeah.
You know, 6'11" ish, let's call him. I don't know if he's 7'1" like he's listed, but like 13 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, blocks a shot, 50, 36, 75. We know he can shoot it. Great pick and pop weapon, good passer. I have Tomislav as a top 50 guy too, for what it's worth.
I do as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, other guys, Tiero, Walter Clayton, Darian Williams at Texas Tech as well. I actually kind of like Darian Williams a little bit more than Toppin as an NBA player, at least. But Sergio De La Ria over in Valencia. You get into this group and it's just like, well, how many of these guys are gonna actually come out? Like Alex Condon is another name that, you know, top 60 grade, but
seems like the older players are the ones you're gonna count on staying in, right? Like the guys that are just truly out of eligibility, and where because of NIL, like I wonder where Yaxel Lindenberg is in eligibility with the JUCO stuff now and all of that.
Yeah, totally. Like Yaxel Lindeborg is a really interesting player. It's just, yeah, like if he can go back to school, he'll make a bunch, but also might be like a top 40 pick if he decides to come out.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a weird, we're in this weird cycle where I don't know what to do with any of it. And I'm kind of just waiting for, like, Jameer Watkins has kind of come around a little bit recently, and he's definitely in the class, which is cool.
Yep. I have him right in that same range.
Yeah. I still don't love the style of play personally. It just feels very downhill, and it's just hard for him to really get anything effectively. But he's really gonna have to shoot it at some point. But I like the defense a lot.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. Okay, that's all we got. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, the Motor City Hoops Substack. Again, if your favorite team plays the Pistons, whenever you get out of this All-Star break, check out the Substack. I write notes not just about Detroit, but also your favorite team when they play them. Sometimes even have some videos if they run some cool actions or something like that. The Pistons Pulse podcast, otherwise Game Theory podcast, right here with Sam Vecenie.
I'll be back. I think I have a video of Rob Dillingham going up tomorrow. What else? I'll do some videos for this week. I know that. I don't know what they'll be, but there will be videos this week at some point. Probably Denny at some point. I'm planning on doing an Asar one, but I want to tell me which Asar game to watch, because I've recorded an Asar video, and then he went on this like offensive little run here.
Yeah.
Where I wanted to like maybe go back and watch the second one before I ran the video. So tell me what Asar game to watch.
Yeah, I'll have to look up the most recent logs here. Don't watch the 2-11 Bulls game, because that was just a disaster. Maybe that second Bulls game. Okay,
can you give me a real NBA team?
Oh, you want a real they played the Hornets before the Bulls. No. And then the Sixers before that.
The Sixers are the closest.
So, and here's the Sixers. That's without Cade Cunningham. They beat the Sixers without Cade, and he starts the game essentially as the primary initiator. So like playing as the primary initiator, brought the ball up, got him into their actions, attacks the defense, drive and post up on Maxey, pushes transition, probably guards Maxey multiple possessions. Yeah,
that's an interesting one.
Has a really impressive pick and roll rep right before half. Like, I'm just reading through my notes here, obviously. So in that game, he put up 14, 8, and 6. So that's like, hey, he's a huge focal point of the offense type game, while also like being able to evaluate what he brought defensively. So that'd be an interesting one.
Yeah. So the game I did was Indiana on the 29th.
Yep.
Which was like to me, it was like the good representation kind of what he is right now. That's why I tried to pick that one. But I know he's been on ball a lot more recently. And I'm like, okay, I don't like the off-ball stuff. Like, I think it's really bad in terms of how they operate. Honestly, I might just run it anyway, because I do a really good job of explaining, not to, say this about myself, but like the video shows how hard it is to make Duran and him work.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's true. It is. It'll be interesting to see how much on-ball stuff he gets out of the break, because that second Chicago game, and I thought maybe they were just experimenting, but like he ran on-ball primary initiator the first 6 minutes of the game with Cade playing. And so I'm like, are they really going to do this? So it'll be interesting to see.
Okay. All right. That gives me something to do later. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
I already did that. It's your turn.
You already did that. Okay. Hey, go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. I'm like getting neck deep into Draft Guide now, and getting into like draft stuff. So Keep it locked over there. I will have like a top 100 at some point, either this week or next week. I'm not sure when it'll be. I want to dig a little bit deeper into some of this, into a few guys, particularly like Malawak is one that like I really want to dive into and figure out here. But that's really all we got here. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie. This is where you can find it. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. I appreciate it. If you are watching or listening over on Spotify, we appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. Go subscribe over on the podcast feed on YouTube. Go do whatever you can to support the show. This will have stuff up on YouTube, and then Bryce and I will go live on, I don't know, Thursday or so. Something like that. We'll either do rookies or we will do like how some of the new trade deadline pieces are fitting in their new homes, kind of after having seen a couple of games back from the deadline. Because NBA starts Wednesday again,
I think,
right?
one of the makeup games from I think the LA Wildfires or whatever is Wednesday. So there's one game Wednesday, and then a lot of teams get back into it Thursday. And I think by Friday, my guess is everybody will have played a game, something like that.
Okay, maybe we'll do like mid-season rookies then or something, and we'll
Charlotte and the Lakers is the only game on Wednesday, and then there's like 10 on Thursday and 10 on Friday type of thing.
And I'm sure that Charlotte Lakers game will be very normal with a very normal number of takes.
Nothing unique about that game. Just a regular Hornets versus Lakers game.
Nothing has happened between those teams recently. Nothing at all.
I'm sure they'll get along really well.
Yeah. Okay. Go hit the subscribe button. We'll talk soon.